And by the way, you don't want that to do that either. You think you do,
But you don't. Yup. Dude, I love the 90s fucking intro, man.
Calling game cubes all day, every day.
Oh shit. My man, that guy's a gladiator.
Incredible 16 hours a day. His mother says his personality has changed and that he's become moody and violent. And his addiction is tearing the family apart.
But our actions are going to matter more than any of these.
That's right. They sure did matter, didn't they?
Alright, Jones up. Let's do this.
Damn, that was some good shit. Bro, what a fucking intro. Holy shit.
The power level where
Bro, I watched this on that monitor.
And they get all the
At Jeff's house. Oh my god. Fuck yeah, dude. This is so good. Holy shit. There it is. The good times, the best times.
In the world of MMORPGs, you'll scarcely find anyone who hasn't heard of, if not played, the World of Warcraft. Released in 2004, it would quickly begin to make a name for itself, garnering worldwide praise for its innovation, accessibility, and the closeness to the community by its developer, Blizzard Entertainment, both celebrated and condemned for its addictiveness. In the span of a few short months, it would not only become the most popular MMORPG genre, but also set the standard for all of those that would follow in its footsteps. Many would try, and over the course of 15 years, few would gain even a fraction of the player base of the seemingly unstoppable giant. Today, though, much different.
People forget how big WoW was. Like, WoW was like, it was the game. It was the game people were talking about. It was like Fortnite in 2018 for 3 years. Probably longer than that, like 5 or 6 years. It was massive. It was the fucking game.
Different picture is painted. What was initially considered inspirational in the world of game development now leaves behind a controversial history marred with what many describe as betrayal, deception, and squandered potential, leaving many asking the question, how? A snapshot of history of a world created within a world, a microcosm of mayhem, a playground for humanity to their best and their worst. This is the story of Blizzard Entertainment and their iconic RPG, The World of Warcraft.
As I said, I really cannot emphasize enough how different the world was. Like back then, it was just so different. It was so crazy. Like this, yep, Y2K. Yep, listen to this.
At the dawn of the new millennium, the online world was growing. The intellect of man and the advancements of technology combined bestowed upon the world the creation of the internet by Al Gore. News of the new Star Wars movie was spreading. The storyboard for The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, had been completed. Nerd culture was about to reach critical mass. And Bill Clinton did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Imagine that.
So entered the massively multiplayer online role-playing game, MMORPG for short, the creation of the first MMO in the 70s, depending on your definition and standards, as they would be text-based, though they had existed for decades.
Bro, straight up, my mom played those text-based games in the 70s. Like real shit, she actually played them all the way back then.
They would attract a sizable player base.
I actually found her notebook with all of her notes and maps that she had made. Maybe like a couple of years ago, I showed it to her. She's like, yeah, that's right. I'll have to show you guys sometime.
Although varying in implementation, they all shared the central idea of an online, persistent world to be shared with players from all over the globe. A genre unique in the sense that there is no point end. No credits rolled,
Nope.
nor thanks for playing. Game content would be added as long as there are players playing. The journey would only end when the player decided that it was over.
It never
The
stopped.
concept was remarkably boring for many at the time. In these early years, many would try their hand in breaking through the genre, and over time, it would contain a niche audience. Some were beginning to make a name for themselves, though, such as Origin Systems leap into the online persistent world with Ultima Online, an isometric
It's pretty
fantasy
good back
game
then. It was
memorable
really good
for
back
its
then.
PvP combat in particular. Mythic Entertainment, who would later develop Warhammer Online, took their shot with the Dark Age of Camelot, a
Yup.
third-person take on Arthurian lore mixed with Norse mythology and high fantasy. Star Wars would make their debut into the world of MMOs with the 2003 release, the Star Wars Galaxies, an MMO with a more heavy focus on community and sandbox gameplay.
You know what's really kind of funny about it is it's almost like it is now, where every company is trying to go towards a metaverse, but back then they actually were, and Blizzard succeeded. Blizzard was the one whose metaverse effectively won out over everybody else.
And most prolific at the time was EverQuest in 1999, Labyrinth Interactive, and 99 Studios, who crowned the previously reigning champion, Ultima Online. Just 24 hours after launch, they would quickly become the most subscribed MMORPG, and
I thought Ultima Online was better personally. I like the aesthetics of Ultima Online.
10,000 subscribers. Yeah, really. 10,000
God
was the
damn.
most subscribed MMORPG at the time. It would eventually peak at over 500,000 years after its launch.
Holy
but
shit,
as
I didn't
history
know
has
that.
shown, this would yet be a fraction of the potential that was hidden within the genre.
Wow.
A potential that had yet to be realized.
That's a lot.
The MMO was on the rise, and the time to strike was nigh, and in the background, a beast was stirring, silently observing the strengths, the weaknesses, the success.
You have to understand, like, back then, Blizzard only made the best games. Like, you might not understand that now, right? But it's so much different. Like, Blizzard was the From Software of the 90s and the 2000s. Like, they brought out a game, and it's like World of Warcraft was as far ahead of its, like, other competitors as, like, Elden Ring is farther ahead of any other game. Like, it was just so far ahead, it just wasn't even... It just put every other game in the fucking dirt.
Successes and the failures of the then relatively unexplored genre. Blizzard at this point already had established themselves
Diablo,
as innovators
yep.
with their Diablo, StarCraft, and Warcraft series. The latter being a real-time
was Warcraft
strategy
2
game
right there.
set in a fantasy world of
Bro, I
orcs,
played this shit all the
elves,
time.
magic, and adventure. And having seen the
is my
success
first
of other
game.
fantasy-based games such as EverQuest, the table was set. After halting development on an abandoned project, a small team of developers were left in
That's Metzen right there. That right there is fucking Metzen.
limbo and were searching for inspiration on their next game. They had the IP, they had the funding, and most importantly, the timing.
The boys, yeah, all the
September
boys.
2nd, 2001, long before Blizzard was big enough to hold their own convention, they held a panel at London's European Computer Trade Show, and it was then that the public for the first time saw the world of Warcraft.
Yep. It just looks so much better than all the other old games. Like, it was just so far above, like, holy shit. Look at that.
They made it clear this was not the sequel to the popular RTS series at the time, but rather something completely different. Players would transition from controlling pre-made heroes and progressing through a campaign to creating their own heroes and making their own stories. The game would be multiplayer on a...
Well, they kind of had this actually in Warcraft 3. Do you guys remember that in the Frozen Throne? You had like that campaign for Rexar. And like Rexar was just by himself. And you would just like send him around on different missions and shit. And I remember whenever World of Warcraft came out, and I was like, well, what kind of game is this? And like Zach told me, he's like, yo, it's like, remember back to like the Rexar campaign in Warcraft 3? I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, but that's like the whole game. I'm like, oh, that's so badass. Like, that's what it was, yeah. Founding of Durotar. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, that was the first foray into it that they made.
Massive skill, bringing together fans of not only the Warcraft series, but of MMOs as a whole. The reaction, however, was mixed. Some waited with eager anticipation, trying to imagine their beloved series making its leap into the massively multiplayer setting,
Yep.
And many were upset at the abrupt change of focus, preferring Blizzard to concentrate on what
See,
was
I just want you guys to see this, just so you can know that there's nothing that has ever changed. Okay? It doesn't matter, like, he knew he was 20 years ahead of his time. But yeah, it's always the way this been.
on what was proven to work, instead of taking a gamble into uncertain territory.
Yeah.
The idea of paying a monthly fee to continue playing was a hard pill to swallow at the time.
It was, bro. Like, I'm telling you, $15 a month, man. Like, $15 a month is like $25 or $30 a month nowadays. Like, 15 bucks, I would get allowance of like maybe 20 or 25. I don't know exactly what it was. And like, it still is, but bro, like back then it was even more. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, it was even more, yeah. It's a lot of fucking money to play game back then. It really was. Like, that's why I didn't, how do I report a GM?
Especially by Blizzard fans who had grown accustomed to the one-time
downstairs.
purchase models set standard by the company. Blizzard would continue on the project, however. The very first interview claimed by the Computer Gaming World magazine. By this time, EverQuest was the clear reigning champion, but the genre as a whole had one fatal flaw. That's the learning curve. XP loss, gear loss, and even permanent character death were commonplace in nearly every game of the genre. And
That's right, because fuck that. I don't want to be this guy, alright? Like, I want to be able to play the game and relax, you know? Yeah, you get your shit fucked up. And, like, this is what I said before, right? Remember I was bringing up how every game was trying to be the last big game? World of Warcraft tried to be the next big game. And that's why it was so successful. Is they did away with the shackles that the previous games gave the players.
Combined with the large time investment in playing, it
Is that
cultivated
breach?
a
No, it's
very
not
niche
breach. It's not
and
ball.
hardcore community, and the everyday casual player would quickly succumb to the intense difficulty and seek entertainment from other, more forgiving games. It was a genre with a focus on character progression, with death penalties centering around character regression and a
Yep.
steep learning curve to go along
Fuck
with it.
that.
However, this transitionary period would prove to be a key moment where players for the first time would leave single-player games that looked like this into this online sprawling world. They were incomparable to each other,
Yeah.
and although it's funny to think now, it was an intimidating thing. The time investment was, and still is, incredibly high. You had to have
Oh yeah, there were so many, because there were also all these news stories. Like, I remember I started playing the game in like 2006, and like my relatives were like, they were like, do you know, like, so you let him play World of Warcraft? Well, I have a friend at work who's so World of Warcraft, and next thing she knows, he's smoking the reefer. And my dad would be like, yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah, that's my son, you know? He'd have been totally fine with that, right? But just in general, he didn't give a fuck. He was like, whatever.
the
on rank
computer,
15? Yeah.
you had to have a good enough graphics card to run it, you had to have internet, and you had to pay a subscription. The
Yeah.
amount of hurdles standing between the average
It's a lot.
person and the game were already high, and combined with the unforgiving gameplay and the landmark titles representing the genre, it was just too much for the average person. But it was this person, this untapped market of new and casual players that Blizzard would set their sights on. World
Yeah.
of Warcraft took a
You know, like the same thing Final Fantasy did 10 years later.
completely different style of approach. During a time when XP
Yep.
loss was the bare minimum penalty for dying, World of Warcraft made you simply run back to your corpse.
One of the great things here is that when you die, and death is an inevitability in all these games, it's it's really not that big of a deal. All other online RPGs make death a really bad thing because dying should be bad, right? Well, in World of Warcraft, pretty much all that happens is you sit out for a bit. You respawn back in a graveyard, you run and get your corpse and you respawn. You don't lose experience points, you don't
Question
lose your items,
tradition.
any of that.
Forge your
Hitting
own
the max
path.
level took years in other games. World of Warcraft, it took months for most players. And when systems were complicated
Holy
and confusing,
shit.
requiring external literature to understand, World of Warcraft systems were relatively straightforward.
Yep.
And when character stat and template choices were often permanent, World of Warcraft featured costly but reversible methods of character progression and
Yeah, you have to remember, 50 gold respecs back in the culture of 2004 was an easy respec. That's like, oh, you can just go and do whatever you want. Yeah, that was an easy fucking respec because you have to remember, like, all of the games, like, basically, like, culture around, like, Dungeons and Dragons, right, was influenced primarily by Tolkien, obviously. But, like, every bit of, like, fantasy gaming for, like, a very, very long time, and, like, you would argue still now, was derivative of the original Dungeons and Dragons. That's why you have dice rolls for critical hits, and you see that DNA in, like, every fucking fantasy game. And like, back in Dungeons & Dragons, it was harder to respec as well, especially in the earlier versions. That's my understanding.
customization. In other games, you had areas designed for large groups of high-level players, referred to as raids, but they were commonly out in the open world, which resulted in having to compete against one another for kill credit. Due to this, there was a greater sense of urgency to complete the raid in its entirety in one sitting before anybody didn't have a chance to catch up.
Yep.
Unwanted competition. Marathon
9-hour
sessions
raids.
of guilds setting up 4-hour shifts was a common strategy to maintain dominion of these raids, in many cases to the detriment of the health of the players. This Final Fantasy XI boss was engaged for 18 hours until players were forced to quit after they began to faint and vomit. Though this boss in particular...
But guys, he was at 10%. Just keep going. It's only 2 more hours. Yeah, come on. You're almost done. Remember that? Yeah, that's how serious this game used to be. Like, people back in the day were ridiculous in these games. It was nuts.
Killer was nerfed shortly after the incident. This was the fate of the end game for most MMOs in these early stages. However, World of Warcraft had been one of the first MMOs to standardize instance grades.
Yep.
Players and guilds could create their own unique instances on a weekly basis. And as for the raid bosses,
That's fair.
kick and simplistic. At the time, they were quite advanced. In their
Oh,
genre.
it's like you look at this thing. What is this? What is this? The triangle dragon? The Lord of Geometry? Like, what the fuck does this? What the fuck does this do? You know what I mean? Like, this is the the Lord of Geometry. Like, of course not. Like, what the fuck? And so, like, whenever WoW came out and like it had instances, it sounds really cool to have these outdoor raids until you have the outdoor raids. And then you realize how fucking annoying it is. That being said, we did have a lot of fun in Classic WoW doing the world bosses. It was having a little bit of this okay. I hope they have that Majesty creation.
Where raid bosses boil down to having a unique name, the higher health pool, Warcraft would have unique and often at the time complex mechanics that required teamwork and thought to overcome, which in turn would become one of the game's major selling points.
Yep.
Worlds and NPCs were commonly static, whereas the world of Azeroth felt more alive with dynamic NPCs going about their daily lives. Simply put, what it didn't invent, it improved.
And
MMO.
that's the thing is, like, yeah, back then there were just characters that just sat around. Like, so many of the things that you take for granted now, like, for example, like in New World, there's no loading screens whenever you're running around in New World. World of Warcraft was the first MMO, really, or first big MMO, I know, to just not really have loading screens. You just go from one zone to another zone. That, just like that simplistic thing, that, like, everybody takes for granted now, was gigantic back then. It was huge.
Were in constant state of almost there. And World of Warcraft was the first one to bridge that gap into a more mainstream audience, and reaped rewards because of that. The game would continue development throughout the years, with teasers being released in the form of magazine interviews and trailers, keeping the curious onlooker abreast on its direction. And after a long alpha and beta testing period, the moment of truth came on November 23rd, 2004.
Yeah. Oh man, guys, I can't believe that these new games can't keep these servers up. It wasn't like this back in the day. I tell you something, back in the day they used to run a whole lot better. Yeah. Ain't shit changed. Yeah, it was worse. Because back then,
appealing to the casual gamer worked well.
Back then, the developers didn't care. Like now, they hire a PR person or a community manager to pretend like they care about you. Back then, developers were like, fuck, really messed this one up, huh? Oh, we'll fix it eventually. I'm gonna go to lunch. Yeah, like, fuck.
Too well.
It's
Blizzard
bored.
in no way
Yep.
was prepared for the frenzy of players eager to get into the world. Disconnects, lag, and rollbacks would persist heavily through the next 8 years. Forums daily would be filled with outrage, demands for a refund, and even aggressive lawsuits. The miraculous thing about it is that it even seemed to slow its growth. WoW today is looked at as disastrous, yet still
Nobody cares about a bad launch. Literally nobody gives a shit. They will come back and play the game later on if it's good. That's why I tell people, it's like every launch is going to be shit. Why is it going to be shit? Because it doesn't really matter. Look at this, RAM or video card? Yes, this was a real question back in the day. This was back in the Stone Ages. Like, people had to connect. There was like an aqueduct with water, and you had to connect that to the stone cutting device, and then the stone cutting device's kinetic energy would power the hamster wheel that would cause the computer to turn on. And that's what it was.
People came back again and again. How can a game that's playable maybe 50% of the time hold such demand? Well, it's because it was that good.
It was good.
Years of development had paid off, as World of Warcraft quickly became a hit, almost immediately dwarfing all competition.
Beat their ass.
Other peer releases. It was the vampire and the MMO industry at its release, and it would suck the life force out of every single staple of the genre.
But it was one unfortunate thing. The fortunate thing was it launched right before WoW. So WoW brought the whole industry down, not just us. Every online out there went down with WoW. WoW was like a huge sucker of players who went over there and drove into WoW. And it drove all our numbers.
60 levels of progression and a world of challenges awaited the eager. There would be many outright moments just waiting to be claimed. Players rushed to the max level, and the title of the world first level 60 went to a player named Zenith. Control World on the Storm Reaver server.
I didn't even know that.
3rd, 2004, a little less than 2 weeks after release. By today's standards, incredible snow, but back then, a no-life nerd as onlookers weren't shy of expressing. On January 30th, 2005, the game would see its first raid cleared with the death of Anixia, taken down by the Guild Ruined on the Proudmouth server, and many players for the first time got to see the famed epic quality items that she hoarded.
Dead. Oh my god!
Blizzard would spend the following years perfecting their craft. As their subscriber base increased, so too did their function, and more servers would quickly be added to support the growing player base. New patches would not only release new raid tiers, but also systems, and much more.
It was a lot of shit.
Here, the subscriber base was seeing its biggest surge for the next decade.
It was fucking insane.
Hey guys, these eggs have given us a lot of trouble in the past. Does anybody need...
Oh no!
One of the earliest videos to go viral in the World of Warcraft was created by the guild Pals for Life.
Yep.
The guild was strategizing on how to clear out a particularly tricky room in the upper Blackrock Spire raid.
I think it's a pretty good plan. We should get pulled off this time. What do you think of Girl Company another crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me I'm coming up with 32.33
People still use that. They still use that.
It's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, comes up.
Ready, guys?
Oh my god, he just ran in.
Yep.
Oh, geez, stupid plane.
Oh, jeez. Let's go.
Dude, I remember having this video on my computer.
Group member Leroy charges in prematurely with reckless speed, causing the death of the entire
Signal plan.
I can't move. I can't move.
Oh my god.
No, just keep saying that. More responding. I don't think you can cast with that shit. Oh, God. Get off. I got it. Get off.
I can't move.
Oh
Yep.
my god.
It was bad.
God damn
The video was later revealed to be staged, but nonetheless, it caught on like wildfire.
It
was
did.
shared across multiple websites and forums, making it one of the first videos for World of Warcraft to gain viral popularity. Onlookers were intrigued.
Man.
Word of mouth proved to be a prolific
It sounded so scripted. No, but like what you don't understand is like back then people didn't think if something was scripted or not. Like it wasn't even in their mind. It was just like, this is a funny video. Wow, this is funny. This guy's so dumb. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't even. It wasn't even on their radar.
advertising vehicle for the web. It's hard to say today just how many people watched the video. Some of the uploads have been lost.
Millions and millions.
Warcraft movies today sits at 19 million views, and the original YouTube video reached at least 46 million.
Holy shit, that's a lot.
And survivors today sit at a total combined count of around 24 million.
88
Regardless,
million.
it's by far the most viewed Warcraft video, even to this day.
Oh my god.
15 years later. It's so popular, in fact, that it was later featured as a question in the trivia show Jeopardy just a few months later in November.
Yep.
Role-playing game out in 2004 returns to the world of Azeroth, where heroes like Leroy Jenkins do battle. That would be the world of Warcraft.
Pathetic.
Yep.
The early craze wasn't the only phenomenon to spawn from the game, though. In September of 2008.
It's like, I'm trying to think of like what would be the equivalent of Leroy Jenkins now. Like, what's a meme that was on the same level as Leroy Jenkins? Gangnam Style? Let me solo her? No, that's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, it was, yes, I think that's a great example. Harambe, it was as prevalent as Harambe. Exactly, and isn't that scary? It was as prevalent as Harambe.
5 on the release of the Silver Upgrade, the final encounter of which was a boss named Hakar.
Oh, I know that guy.
Ability called Corrupt
He's an
Blood,
asshole.
which dealt some damage to a player, and if they were to stand too close to another, it would spread to that person. In a contained environment, it's just another raid of them. That is, until one player, intentionally or otherwise, managed to create a virtual pandemic that spread across every single panic had one fatal flaw. By getting a pet companion infected with the disease, then dismissing it, it would persist when the pet was summoned once more. This person did just that. The crowd area spread infection to every nearby player and NPC, and as long as there were living hosts, there was no escape.
I love how this is exactly what happened with COVID. Like, this is exactly what happened. Is like they never really got rid of it. Like, because it wasn't like, oh, the people would just like, they would, they would stay by themselves. Nope, they just run around and, it just kept happening.
Entire cities became infected.
It was real.
quickly spread, and other players intentionally started spreading the disease.
Yep, just like the people
Ironforge,
licking things in
Stormwind,
Walmart.
Orgrimmar, every major capital city was the death hub, and was uninhabitable by lower-level players.
Yep.
The spread would continue to last for days, until Blizzard eventually hotfixed the disease. But the resulting chaos remains to this day to be one
It
of
was
the most memorable
legendary.
moments in the game's history, and has even been used in real-world research of the spread and reaction of contagious diseases.
Yeah, it's real easy to be an asshole behind the keyboard and get away with it. It shows just how well shit clings to the asshole. Example, Achira and his band of dignitaries were added to the to-be canon list. Congratulations, you have stooped lower than any other guild in MMO history. That silly fool has no idea what is to come.
Though there are many memorable landmark moments
Oh
in the
my
game's
God.
history, one more controversial
There
in
sure were.
2006 on the Illidan server, a player by the name of Phajin passed away suddenly from a stroke.
Yep.
In memoriam of one of her favorite activities, fishing, her guild had decided to host an in-game funeral service. There were two forums. One was publicly advertised on their own forums.
And it was on a PvP
Illidan
server.
PvP server,
Yep.
where players of the opposite faction could freely attack one another. A guild, strangely enough, saw the thread and felt that they would join in to pay tribute, but in a very different way. Having snuck through a nearby tunnel leading into the zone,
Yep.
the entire raid team prepared to crash the funeral. Players lined up to pay tribute to their friend. The raid crew was in on the location. And to
Stay
make
for a
matters
funeral.
worse, they offered to roleplay. All the attendees had unequipped their armor and weapons.
Of
They
course.
were defenseless against the surprise onslaught.
Do you remember the fucking video where, like, as soon as that happened, they started playing the Scat Man? Like, the second, like, whenever they opened, I heard it in my mind, you know? Yeah, exactly.
The funeral was quickly and easily dispatched. The
Yeah, I
Serenity
bet
now
it
has become
was.
infamous on their server, and the crash still stands today as one of the most controversial in-game events in its entire history.
It sure
All of these
was.
moments serve a crucial role in the telling of the history of the game. They would serve as a reminder of the reasons why the game is such a success. Do not only by perhaps even more drastically by the community that the world of Azeroth was comprised of. The world, however, was about to change.
How many of you have played World of Warcraft?
There he is, Mike Morhaime.
Due to the success of World of Warcraft, Blizzard for the first time held their own event, a convention centered solely around a Blizzard game.
Holy shit.
BlizzCon. This was and remains to be a unique aspect of the developer to hold a personalized convention
Maybe not remains.
tailored to their products. A form of celebration of not only the games that they're creating, but also the already massive community that they've built. The strong focus on the community would be something that Blizzard would become known for, and it created a loyalty of sorts from the players.
It was, like, you were, like, there were people that, like, for example, whenever Diablo 3 came out, everybody that played WoW, a lot of my friends, we all just went over and played Diablo 3. Whenever Overwatch came out, we all just went over and we played Overwatch. Why are they some Blizzard games? Just want to play StarCraft 2 comes out, yeah, absolutely. And, like, you have to think about how fucking ridiculous it was that this company was so popular and so well-liked, and they could have set up, and this is, like, also, by the way, like, nowadays we have other companies that do things like this. We have, like, you know, FanFest for Final Fantasy. We have the Witcher convention that they did recently.
What can I do for
But back then, like, this was unheard of. This company was so popular, this was so big, that people would travel all around the world, all around the country, to come together and celebrate how much they love the games. It was nuts, man. QuakeCon? Yeah. Yeah, ExileCon?
Keep
Yeah,
your
that's
feet
a lot
on
of
the ground.
BlizzCon was one of the originals.
In felt like it was more than a game. It was a community of people sharing their combined love and passion for the worlds that they created.
You guys take care of us, man. You guys really take care of us.
Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft. Fans from around the world would plan vacations around it. Longtime friends and guildmates would meet each other in person for the first time. And BlizzCon as a whole would become a very crucial part of Blizzard's identity from this point forward.
Oh, it sure was.
The very first convention, held in October of 2005, a bombshell announcement was unveiled. The World of Warcraft is about to get bigger with the release of its first expansion, the Burning Crusade.
That shit was crazy. It's like you have to imagine like how fucking like how much you must have felt like you were just like you were there, you were in it, right? Because like this game is like the biggest pop culture phenomenon of like all time. Like this is so huge. And then like you go to fucking the convention and then like fucking Burning Crusade gets announced and it's just like it won't stop. We just can't stop winning, you know? It was nuts, man.
The expansion boasted what players had come to expect from the World of Warcraft and more. They would step into the world of the Outland and progress through 10 more character levels, new zones, talents, dungeons, spells, raids, races, a profession, a new PvP system, and much more. It would add on to and improve in just about every aspect of the game.
It did.
But it's still 2005, and there's a lot of game left to conquer before players began worrying about their foray into the Outland. There were dragons to kill and DKP to acquire.
DKP, Dragon Kill Points.
Groups got left, even groups got right. That means 1, 3, 5, 7 left, 2, 4, 6, 8 right.
Oh god.
In the game, you had casual, hardcore, and everything in between, and there were some who took it even further beyond.
No reason to lose the main tank, and I am blaming you, because I blame my son. I can fucking do it, everyone can do it. Do it right. This is bullshit.
Videos of more.
He's not wrong. You understand? They're wiping on Magmadar. Like, he's actually right. Like, yeah, what do you mean, like, you can't do it? It's Magmadar. Get up and fucking figure it out.
Serious or angry nature.
Get out of the fire, idiot.
Up at this point. Those of raid leaders chewing out members for failing and properly performing the mechanics of a boss fight.
Yep.
Well,
Crushing was failing to...
who the fuck was that? Crush him! What the fuck? Whelps! Left side! Even side! Mini whelps! Now handle it! Fuck!
The most prolific of which being...
Just like, pause. Fuck! Oh my god, man, it was just so good. And like these people, by the way, these people weren't like, this wasn't like a put on. Like they did this for free. Like this was actually how they acted. This is actually how they talk and everything.
And Dives, the raid leader of the guild, White Club, Anixia at this point had been slain by
Yep, still happens. Oh
yeah. One of the members decided to record what would later become one of the biggest meltdowns in history.
You have to think that like that meme is still used. Like people still use 50 DKP minus and like and that has become a gaming meme in general. An internet meme, period. It is a timeless meme.
What the fuck was that shit?
Much like Leroy, the animation would quickly become popular.
Yep.
It highlighted the frustrating side of coordinating.
There are people that use that and don't even know what it means.
The challenging raids.
Don't play like you're just fucking going through the motions. You'll get your goddamn loot eventually. God damn it!
Yep.
Fucking bullshit.
So, and you know what that was, right? That's like the fucking, you know, the little fucking gray mics on a stand with like the little circular platform that you buy at Circuit City for $19.99. He just knocked that shit over right there. Yep, I have one. Yep, I had the headset, so I was good.
Well, we're all gonna get attacked because we have no warlock here. Nice job, you fucking idiot!
True!
Hey, shut the fuck up! You stupid fuck!
Is that Ragnaros?
These videos would paint players in a much less flattering light, as many people would become so obsessed that they would shirk real-life responsibilities and fall out of contact with friends, quit work or school, and in the most extreme cases cause harm to themselves and others. In Korea, in June of 2005, a 4-month-old child of a couple would suffocate when left unsupervised for several hours as they were playing World of Warcraft in an internet.
See, like, I hate whenever these articles like this comes out, like it's actually the game's fault. Like, this is the game's fault that this happened. Not exactly.
Unsupervised
It's
for
so
several hours
disingenuous.
as the parents were playing World of Warcraft in an internet cafe. The phrase World of Warcraft was coined, shedding light on the dark side of video game addiction, particularly that of MMOs and the consequences of obsession. Something that the media was not shy of reporting, as World of Warcraft, due to its popularity, would find itself at the center of this war against video game addiction.
He's playing them an incredible 16 hours a day. His mother says his personality has changed and that he's become moody and violent.
Bro, like, imagine playing 16 hours a day. Bro, like, I mean, for real, like, how do you not have T1 at 16 hours a day? Like, Jesus, man, like, you gotta up your numbers up, man. Like, what are you doing?
His addiction is tearing the family apart.
To many, it was more than a game. It was a virtual life with a graphical interface. It attracted people from all walks of life and blended them together in the chaos of this News of the Burning Crusade remained to be scarce as it was still under NDA in the Friends and Family Alpha. A blog post teasing new features would be shared scarcely, but otherwise, it was still largely a mystery outside of what was shared after 2005 BlizzCon. The excitement was palpable.
This was the original
players
Dark
from
Hole.
all over the world.
That's what it used to look
get
like.
into the Outland.
Before the
expansion
Burning
started
Crusade.
not too long after, as players got to discover and explore its features, and shortly after, World of Warcraft would become the focus of the cartoon series South Park, their Make Love, Not Warcraft episode.
I remember I watched this episode with my dad at his house whenever it came out. I watched it on television. Because like, we would watch South Park every time it came out, right? And so we would just watch this one. Yeah, I remember this so well. It was so fucking good. I remember I put a link to this on my MySpace page back whenever it came out.
The episode detailed the Blaze's fight against a hacker antagonist.
It's a good time.
Their struggle with video game addiction. So on release, it was an instant success. 10 years later, Parker detailed his worries with the episode, revealing that he even tried to get it pulled as much that it simply wasn't funny. But
and it was the best one of all time. It got voted best one of all time. And also, I remember what I loved about it the most is that all of the everything that they were using in the game were actually like real items. It wasn't just like some bullshit. They actually used real items. Besides that, it was all the actual items.
As history has shown, the episode would become an instant success, and despite the fact that the series at this point now has over 300 episodes, it remains the most popular to this day.
Yep.
Like you're about to get
Timber Pone, perfectly owned. Holy shit, man. That's some fucking 2004 energy. Oh my god. Yep.
January 16th finally came, and it marked the
Midnight
beginning
releases,
of the new
boys.
era, the official end of vanilla World of Warcraft. People lined up outside of stores and tents in the freezing cold. Launch parties were held. The community was stronger than ever, and pulled together with their one shared trait, their fear of women. Their collective.
Yeah, both. Yes, exactly. No, it was that was what it was. Like, I remember my mom was there at the midnight release from Burning Crusade because we pre-ordered the game. So back then, pre-ordering a game, the reason why you pre-order was so the GameStop or EB Games or Best Buy or wherever you were buying from knew how many copies to stock. They'd have it was basically like you could go there whenever the game was out, and you could be guaranteed that you would get your game if you had a pre-order. So my mom and I, we pre-ordered the game, and I remember we waited. It was at fucking Steak and shit, and we waited there, and we drove by the GameStop, and then we were just talking about WoW. We were talking about 60, and then we look over, and it's 11:45, and it's fucking. And so we rush over, and I got my copy of Burning Crusade with my mom the night of BC release, man. And it was the same day that I got it. I don't have it up right now because I think it's in the wash. It's the night that I got her to buy me that shirt, the Burning Crusade shirt. Yeah. I was like, you know what? Can you buy me the shirt? She said, yeah. I go home, I put it on. I swear to fucking God, the next day was a snow day. I stayed home, played the game all day.
Of love for the game. At this point, it had amassed roughly 8 million subscribers by the expansion's release, never once reporting a loss, and holding on to the lion's share of the market. In the background stirred some serious competition, however. Mythic Entertainment, who developed the Dark Age of Camelot, sought to compete against Blizzard with an MMORPG adaptation of the renowned Warhammer series. Due to its similar fantasy setting, holding orcs, magic, elves, and wizards, he thought it to be the direct competitor to World of Warcraft, and deemed it to be one of the first of many
I never played
during the time. Another such game was The Age of Conan, the Hyperlight Adventures, developed by Funcom, who was mostly known in the MMO community for Anarchy Online in 2001. Its selling points would be impeccable graphics at the time, and a new and fresh combat system, dark and visceral world, featuring the fatality mechanic, where players could execute each other in brutal fashion, often described as the Mortal Kombat of MMORPGs. And The Lord of the Rings Online by Turbine was also development, an MMO of one of the most celebrated franchises in culture history, certainly posed as a serious threat to Blizzard at the time. Though these contenders would be far off from release, the competition was beginning to get fierce.
Well, it really wasn't, because all of these games weren't very good. WoW just played so much better than these other games. It just really wasn't even a competition. It was so far ahead.
The Burning Crusade had to be as exceptional as its predecessor. Months and months of doomsaying was put to the test. Did the Burning Crusade kill the World of Warcraft? Of course, the answer is no. The expansion was a major success. Its subscription base rose even more rapidly as players explored the reaches of the Outland. The classes evolved, and the gap between them was lessened, while still retaining the features that made them special. The raids were more challenging, the bosses more complex, and offering more content to the overall subscriber base.
Burning Crusade was basically just a better version of the game. There were some things that Vanilla was better with, I think world building in Vanilla was better, and there were some other advantages in Vanilla WoW, but Burning Crusade for pretty much all in-game activities was just an improvement.
The raid scene itself proved to be even more difficult for players than what they had encountered in the base game, with many lists today naming the plethora of Burning Crusade bosses
one of the best bosses of all time
in the game's history, even over 14 years later, with some of them going unkilled by 99% of the player base until Blizzard introduced themselves to make them easier.
And even then, it was still hard.
Extensive process for getting entry to the raids. A large series of stories
we did this.
Character progression, where they find themselves with nothing to do. The PvP system had evolved to be more competitive with the new arena mode, where players create custom teams zones and battle and small-scale matches to the death, setting the stage for future competitive events in Blizzard's attempt to gain a foothold into the growing esports scene. The Alliance, for the first time, got to expose a new class to them, the Shaman, and for the Horde, the Paladin, with two new races added to them, the Draenei and the Five-man dungeons to the forefront with the advent of the more challenging heroic difficulty. The expansion was packed with
It was insane.
most critically acclaimed releases even to this day. The Lord of the Rings also saw its release in 2007 to serve as competition for World of Warcraft, and although receiving favorable...
Such dog shit. Like, I mean, really, it was just such absolute fucking dog shit compared to WoW. Like, I'm sorry, but like, WoW was just so far above it in terms of like combat and playability. It was just not even remotely close. Like, it was just, yeah, I don't care. Like, it looked just. The thing is, like, every other game looked like it came from 1999. That was the way I feel. Like, yeah, it looked like it came from 1999. And like, WoW was the first game that like really looked like next gen at the time.
Reviews at the time, it couldn't compare to the size and scope of WoW, selling under 200,000 copies in the first months of release, and dwindling shortly thereafter. The game does still run today, supported by a niche community, and is hovering around 40,000 active players at the time of this video.
Better than New World.
The Burning Crusade pressed on, undaunted, and in the following BlizzCon in August, the next expansion, The Wrath of the Lich King, was announced.
So he missed something here. Wrath of the Lich King was not announced, it was leaked. And the guy, whenever he announced Wrath of the Lich King, said, for anybody who already knows what this is, your account is getting banned. Like, they straight up made a joke about it, and then they announced Wrath of the Lich King.
Players were teased of the land of Northrend, where they had once visited in the events of Warcraft 3.
You have to remember, like in Warcraft 3, the end of Warcraft 3 was like Arthas beating Illidan. So like in the context of WoW, we just beat Illidan. Well, the next guy is the Lich King, right? Like that's the next thing. It's gotta be the next thing, right? And so like the Lich King was seen as like the last boss of WoW. Like, yeah, you had things like Sargeras, Deathwing, like Deathwing's in Warcraft 2, but like really it was fucking the Lich King, right? And like, so whenever this shit happened, it was like, holy fuck, it's like, we really out here, boys. This is it.
Farewell.
Here, where they would face off against Arthas Menethil as the Lich King.
Yeah.
10 more levels, a new class, the Death Knight, new zones, and siege vehicle combat were just a few of the many new features teased at the convention. And due to the success of the Burning Crusade, there was little question if it would be just as good. 2008 came, and on the 1-year anniversary of the release of the Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft hit a landmark 10 million subscribers.
Whenever, every single time one of these things would get announced, because Blizzard would announce these at their earnings reports, like everybody in general chat would be like, bro, there's 10 million people playing the game now, there's 9 million people playing the game now. Like, it was crazy. Like, the excitement for it and everything about that was just huge. Like, you really felt like you were, like, part of it. Like, you were really moving something. It was happening right then and right there. And also, like, another thing that, like, Mad Season's not really talking about is the fact that, like, at the same time in, like, Vanilla WoW, BC, like, Wrath, like, in the middle of those right there, that's whenever, like, internet personalities first started coming into play, right? You had people like Athene. You had people like Swifty. And these are like the original dawns of making YouTube like online content. Like, yeah, you had, well, yeah, it was like a Hobbs, like, and you had a few other people too. Like, and these guys were just like absolute fucking legends, man. Like, everybody was talking about them, everybody was thinking about them. Yeah, Kungen, like, yeah, you've got a few more too. It was massive. And like, what's so crazy is like literally Swifty is still streaming to this day. And he's still successful too. It's fucking incredible, man.
Absolutely dwarfing any and all competition.
Yeah.
The up-and-coming contender, the Age of
Dreadful, I think, was
Conan,
Wrath.
saw its release in May of 2008 and received generally positive reviews by the media It had sold over 1 million copies by the end of its release month, though ultimately, the game had failed to retain this impressive surge of subscribers. Although reviewers worldwide had praised the game, the player base condemned it as being unfinished and rushed, as subscriptions quickly declined, and just 1 year later, Funcom would perform a fatality on 31 out of its 42 servers. Much like The Lord of the Rings Online, the game still holds a dedicated yet niche following, by and large falling short of being the WoW killer that many predicted that it would be.
The way WoW did. Oh, here we go. Here,
In July, in a bombshell announcement at the height of the game's popularity, the power of the dark side can be resisted no longer. As Blizzard's parent company, Vivendi, announced a merger with Activision, already having gained a reputation for excessive monetization and driving franchises and developers to an early grave. Many were dismayed at news, fearing that the same would become true for their beloved franchises, including the World of Warcraft. Along with EA, they would gain the reputation of exploiting the player base to the fullest extent, and
some things never change.
Heads today, one of the largest focus on cash shops and pay-to-win game design. And just 1 year later, in September of 2009, Activision Blizzard would release the paid faction change service, and 1 month after that, the paid race change service, along with in-game collectible pets.
I'm so glad that, like, Mad Season actually puts this into perspective. Because this shit happened right after this fucking merger, man. And nobody seemed to realize this. Yeah, it happened right then.
These services were seen by many as an affront on the integrity of the game, and although not terribly impactful by themselves, it was believed that they would serve as a gateway for more damaging paid services to be introduced later. In September of 2008, the for the Wrath of the Lich King expansion became set in stone for November.
Nobody wanted to listen.
Just as it was back in 2006. The clock began ticking for players to finish their activities in the Burning Crusade before the content was made to be irrelevant, and due to the difficulty of the raiding scene in general, they had their hands full. There was quite a long drought between the final patch of the Burning Crusade and the launch of Wrath, nearly 8 months, but players didn't seem to mind.
Nobody gave a fuck because there was always more content to do. There were so many, like, you had to do, like, fucking Kara, Gruul. You didn't really have to do Mag. You didn't really have to do Gruul either, really. Like SSC, Tempest Keep, Hyjal, fucking Black Temple, Sunwell. So like most people always had something to do next in terms of their raids and everything. No catch up. Well, they had catch up, but it wasn't all encompassing. So like for example, like the badge vendor would have 3 or 4 items that were Sunwell, trash level quality or like Black Temple level quality. But like that's all you could get. So you couldn't get a full set of gear. You just got 3 items. Like I remember you got like an axe, you got like a ring, and like a chest piece or something like that. That's it. ZA was catch up. Yeah, but ZA was still like you would do Suleiman and you would still want to do SSC and TK as well because that other gear.
To the success and lingering challenge that the expansion had to offer.
And you couldn't do
Those who thought otherwise, though, sought to fill in this void with the release of the highly anticipated Warhammer Online, which saw its release in September. But was it enough to succeed where the Lord of the Rings Online and Age of Conan failed? The game saw similar numbers to the Age of Conan, selling 1.2 million copies at launch,
which is WoW was the biggest
solid
game.
subscriber base of 800,000 players. But similar to Funcom's debacle, it simply wasn't ready. Performance issues overshadowed.
I think also like for the scope of what Warhammer 40k is, I don't even know if a modern game could do it. Like you'd have to have No Man's Sky plus World of Warcraft plus Elden Ring, like plus like it's like the scope of it. Warhammer, yeah, but like I guess Warhammer's about it's different, sure. But like I feel like a 40k universe would be fucking amazing. I would if a massive publisher said they're making a Warhammer 40k MMO, I would be so excited. But I feel like it's so hard to do. Like imagine having a fucking spaceship and you can like land on planets and go to war there. It'd be so cool.
battled in what could have been a great
There's like one
experience,
giant server.
and players that have grown accustomed to
Holy
World of
fuck.
Warcraft's finely tuned and polished combat system
Yeah, it was just better.
immediately noticed a lack of fluidity with its gameplay.
was dog
Additionally, the game would suffer from major scandals, such
Billing
as
error.
erroneously charging subscribers for years of game time in a single day, with some racking up charges and overdraft fees into the thousands. Similar to the Age of Conan, Warhammer failed to retain this early surge of players, and servers were shut down, and the subscriber base dropped even lower than that of their 2001 MMO, The Dark Age of Camelot. The game officially shut down in 2013, but many deemed it to be truly dead just 1 year after its release.
Because WoW was so good, why would you play anything else besides that? And also at that point, people were so invested in WoW. Why are they going to stop playing WoW whenever they're already invested into that game? Right? Why would they do that? They've already made a character in WoW. They've got a guild. They've got all their friends. It's like there can only be one MMO. Yeah, all their friends play WoW. Like, yeah.
Shortly after, the Wrath of the Lich King expansion saw its release, and Blizzard would once more break sales records. Players charged into Northrend with new zones to explore, dungeons and raids to conquer, and a new class to discover. The Death Knight was what everyone expected and more. A lot more.
Too
Way
much
too much, in
more.
fact, as many saw them to be far too powerful on release. They would later
They're not far too powerful. They were fucking broken. They were fucking broken. So Death Knights had an ability that would turn them into a, they would die, whenever they would die, they would turn into a ghoul. And then the ghoul could blow itself up. And if the explosion that the ghoul used to kill itself killed you, it would win the arena match. It was just such, like, Death and Decay would automatically horrify your character over and over and over as long as you were inside of it. It was so bad. Oh my god.
be tuned down in upcoming patches. Replayability was amplified as the achievement system was implemented, and players could collect points, titles, mounts, and more through this new feature aimed towards completionists.
I did a lot of those.
It would receive positive reviews of its many new features and improvements, and the subscriptions continued their upward trend, eventually peaking at 12 million. Just as with the Burning Crusade, it seemed to be unstoppable, though it would be where the first sign of weakness showed. Through the numbers that have been made public, there wasn't a single moment where Wrath had lost subscriptions between reports, but it was also the first expansion where they had stopped gaining subscribers, as they hovered around 11 to 12 million throughout the course of the expansion, and as shown, it wasn't due to any of these would-be WoW killers. In August of the same year, the rating scene expanded.
I think you also, another reason why WoW kind of, like, this is just what's going to happen, right, is like, you hit what's called market saturation, where everybody that's going to get close to the game has already is playing it or has chosen not to play it. And that's it, right? And there's also a, there's like a certain level of, it's $15 a month, I'm not going to play it, because there's still a lot of people. I remember Austin, like, he's the guy that, you know, met his girlfriend, and WoW, he didn't want to play it until like the end of Wrath, because it was $15 a month. That's a lot of fucking money. Yeah, it was a huge thing.
The big way as the third raid tier for the expansion.
This was such
Trial
a
of
pop
the Crusader would release with the heroic difficulty setting.
Yep.
Previously, if players had a challenge with the encounters, they could impose boss-specific goals or restrictions on bonus loot, achievements, and bragging rights. Players would now instead toggle this optional difficulty setting before entering the raid, and every boss within would deal more damage, take more damage, and gain extra mechanics in exchange for better quality loot. This, along with the mythic raiding mode to be introduced later, would become a landmark change in the core design of the game, aimed to increase accessibility by greatly lowering the base normal difficulty and funneling those seeking a greater challenge into this optional difficulty setting.
I remember we one-shot some of the bosses in TOC. Like, it was so fucking easy that, like, we just brought in 25 Dumbos, and I was like, so yeah, it says on ThoughtBot that we have to hit the We have to, oh, no, never mind. Okay, all right, forget it. So we have to have everybody, wait a minute. Oh, okay, all right, let's just give it a pull. Let's just give it a pull, see what happens. Oh, it's dead? Okay, cool. See you next week, guys. That was it, man.
This change in design would later be accelerated in the next expansion, the Cataclysm, which would be unveiled in BlizzCon 2009.
This is a big fucking deal.
Change the face of the world of Azeroth as you know it.
This was huge.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you World of Warcraft Cataclysm!
So
was
good,
about
bro.
to change for good, as the entire old world was deemed to be outdated by 2009 standards. This expansion's villain, Deathwing, would ravage the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, reshaping them visually and mechanically by reworking each quest. Players would be able to...
And to be honest, this was an improvement. Like, the new quests that they had added into the game were massively better than the old quests. Like, as somebody who did all of the new quests and somebody who did all of the old quests, the new ones were way better. They were way more, like, fucking concerted in one area. They were way more connected. They were way better designed. They weren't as annoying. It was just simply an improvement. I know there's people that think back and are like, oh, but I like this quest. Yeah, sure, you can still like the quest, but you have to admit the new ones just played a lot better.
Explore all of these changes from the comfort of their flying mounts, which were now enabled in the old world.
The new zones
Two
were
new races,
like this
the
looks
Organ
so
for the
good back
Alliance
then.
and the Goblin for the Horde would also make their debut, as well as a reworked talent system. The game was to go over its biggest makeover to date, and whether it was for the better or worse was yet to be seen. December marked the month of another hallmark feature being added to the game, the dungeon fight.
This is whenever things began to get a little bit tricky. This was right here. It's the dungeon hunter. Oh my fucking god. Like, this was what it was. It was not really, like, I think Cataclysm, I don't think they should have changed the whole world until they have the same as you can with, like, the different, like, keepers of time and everything. They shouldn't have just done it until they were ready to do that. But I actually thought Cataclysm was really cool. I liked Cataclysm a lot.
Finder. No longer did players have to travel the world to run to their favorite dungeons, as this tool matchmakes them together and teleported the party directly to the entrance.
Yep.
At the time, this feature was received with overwhelmingly positive feedback and a welcome quality of life improvement. Though restricted to players only on their server at the time of its launch, it would later be opened up to other servers, which had the unintended side effect of alienating the community from each other.
Yeah.
Previously, having to manually form groups had served as a critical other. Previously, having to manually form groups.
Wait, bro, that's Jimmy and DJ Penguin. Holy fuck. DJ Penguin is in my he's in my Lost Ark guild. Like, he was in my Classic WoW guild. Actually, I think was he in Crusade? I don't remember. And Jimmy, bro, like, Jimmy and I played. He's like a big YouTuber now. Like, dude, we played we played PUBG together like all the time back in the day. Like, he still comes into my chat regularly. It's Wednesday, my dudes. Come on.
Groups had served as a critical and natural way for players to meet one another and make friends, and they would soon learn the downsides of automating the process by handling the formation of the group automatically. It's too far away. The social aspect critical to MMO gameplay suffered as a result. By itself, this negative impact of the system would remain relatively minor. In years, players would notice the trend of eliminating these critical social structures in the name of convenience. And
I thought Raid Finder was, back in the day, I said that they only added Raid Finder because there were people, like, and y'all remember this back in, like, Wrath, right? Or, like, early Kata or mid Kata. There were people that, like, they were just so fucking garbage literally everybody on the
I'm
server
out of
knew
range.
that they were fucking garbage, and no one would play with them. Nobody would play with them. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with them. And I said that they added Raid Finder because these shitbags could never find the group, and they kept crying about it. That's what it was. I'll be right back.
What? Jesus Christ! I'm busy fucking your moms. What a day! Fucking idiot.
Gotta water the plants here. My mom was being good. You probably deserved it. All right, here we go.
At the heart of the game's sense of community, which many claim to be one of the biggest features to which it owed its success. The community would also see changes outside of the game. In
This
July,
was during fucking ICC.
Blizzard unveiled their new Real ID system, where their smart
Hey
forums
girl,
for
let me
all
get
their
your real
games,
ID.
Not just World of Warcraft, would no longer display character names when posting, but rather real names tied to the account. Blake reacted with concern of Blizzard's disregard of basic privacy rights.
See, I never cared about this really because I never posted on the forums. The only time I would post on the forums was to talk shit. Like, that was it. All I would do was talk shit on the forums, and that was literally the only thing I cared about. Everything else was whatever.
That their actions essentially dox the entire forum community. Doxing is the act of unlocking someone's personal information, such as their name, address, with the ultimate goal of real-life harassment. Today, the advent of stalking shows the repercussions of those whose personal information was leaked. Companies do the work for them is seen as extremely dangerous. Flame wars and online disputes, past, present, and future, would serve as vessels for real-life harassment. They stated that the reason for the change was to cut down on forum trolling. Their logic being that if someone's real name was tied to their post, they'd think more carefully about how to treat others, and that, quote, removing the veil of anonymity typical to online dialogue will contribute to a more positive forum environment and connect the Blizzard community in ways that they haven't been connected before. Another community manager put it to the test, and in an effort to quell the players' fear, he posted his real-life name. Within 1 day, players found and published his address, phone number, age, and took to placing false pizza orders in his name, and even placed death threats, connecting him.
I thought that what happened was that they put a bomb threat on his daughter's school. That's what I remember happening. Is it, yeah, they put a bomb threat on his daughter's school, and then Blizzard was like, wait a minute, nope, never mind, we're not gonna do this. Yep. What's wrong with that? Well, that's why you don't put people's real information out there. That's why you don't do it. It's because somebody out there will do that.
That's still the community in ways that he's never been connected before. Shortly after, the co-founder of Blizzard, Mike Morheim, stepped in.
Yep, I remember this.
Announced that they had rescinded their plans of publishing the players' real names. In October, Blizzard pinned down a release date for the Cataclysm expansion, December 7th of the same year.
Pearl Harbor.
Despite the controversy, the game in October would reach its peak subscriber count of 12 million. The holidays came, and the Day of Reckoning was at hand, and the World of Warcraft.
My mom and Cody and Jeff sat in the car while I had to wait in the cold and get Cataclysm. I had to sit out in the cold while they were sitting in the warm car talking about all the places they were gonna fly around in Azeroth. I'm sitting there fucking freezing my dick off, listening to some moron tell me about how there are no frost worms in WoW. And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you just play Wrath of the Lich King? And I finally come back with everybody's copy of the game. They're like, oh great, that took you long enough. And I came back home, we played all fucking night.
It's too far away.
I remember Cataclysm came out, and it was my last day of finals, and I stayed up all night, and I just went to the final, and I took the class. It was like an entry-level, like, college algebra class. I passed it, and some girl there that I thought was really attractive failed the exam, and I was gonna come to her and talk to her because I thought she was cute. And then I saw her closer up, and I realized that she wasn't as attractive as I thought she was. And I couldn't have been happier because it meant that I could go home to Cataclysm and never think about her again. Straight up. Straight fucking up, man. Like, yep, and that's exactly what I did.
Would suffer Cataclysm in more ways than one. In addition to the retuned old world, the talent system would also see an overhaul, altering the traditional freeform 3-tree talent system into specializations.
Yep.
Players would be forced to pick just one, and to lose access to many spells iconic to the other two. The trees as a whole
That was so
would also
dumb.
be
I hated that.
simplified, and the amount of points to invest reduced.
Yep.
Class and item balance in general would also be at the forefront of changes in the expansion, mostly through the form of removal. Spell ranks were removed, and all abilities now just had one rank that scaled with your level.
I thought spell ranks were stupid. I think it was a good decision for them to remove them.
And were trained automatically, and much more. The Cataclysm expansion is seen by many to mark the point when the RPG
beginning of the
and MMORPG was made to be lowercase, as it transformed into a much simpler version of an already straightforward game. As World of Warcraft strayed further and further away from its social and RPG roots, a community of private server players would grow larger and larger with each expansion.
Yep.
Independent groups took to hosting past versions of the game, the most prolific of which being of its original state, referred to as vanilla. Though its beginnings were humble, this private server community would eventually grow large enough to become a problem for Blizzard. They would find themselves embroiled in legal battles to protect.
This really happened, like private servers really started to pop off in GIS, WoD. Like as soon as WoD came out, that's whenever Austin started playing on Nostalrius. That's whenever I started streaming. I was like, I don't have anything else to do. And like, yes, no, I understand that there were servers before WoD, but I remember like whenever a lot of people, like their popularity was like this. Like it went up so fast.
Protect their IP from infringement,
Alex
and would
Central?
eventually
Yep.
influence a major developed project many years later.
He's back, by the way.
Regardless, they showed once more that
Back
they had
again.
no difficulty in selling expansions, as once again, they broke their own sales record with Cataclysm,
They did.
selling a staggering 3.3 million copies on release day. But unlike the previous expansions, they had not seen an overall increase in subscribers post-release, instead remaining steady
It was the
at the
first
12 million
decline.
mark it had been stuck at since the beginning of 2009.
Yep.
And for the first time since its inception in
Post-cataclysmic.
2004, the World of Warcraft would see a loss in reported subscribers.
It was a lot,
in fact,
too.
Cataclysm would fail to gain subscribers in a single reported quarter in its near 2-year run, discounting the release of the next expansion, The Mists of Pandaria, which would be announced in October.
Cataclysm wasn't really that popular among a lot of people. And I think that the changing of Azeroth really upset a lot of people because it was like, oh man, like this was the world that like at that point they had grown up with and loved, and like now it's different, and so it kind of it severed that emotional bond that they had in a lot of regards.
What's up?
I thought Cata was great.
Have a good one. Be good.
Oh God. Oh, no.
Initial reaction would be very mixed.
No.
The theme of the expansion was so unexpected that many thought it to be an end-of-season April Fool's joke.
No.
Players would explore the mysterious world of Pandaria, the new race, the Paladin, and a new class. Dungeons were getting a special challenge mode to bring relevancy once more to 5-man content, and micro dungeons
Not that good.
players. And the pet battle system was also implemented.
Okay.
A minigame reminiscent of the popular Pokemon franchise.
Yeah, I like pet
As for
battles.
the talent system, it would be simplified even further.
What you guys have to remember about the talent system here is that
Franchise.
the talent system in Mists of Pandaria was actually really good because each different thing that you would use had its own purpose. Like every single one of these was fucking insane. Like in Disrupting Shout was an extra interrupt. And a rude interruption gave you a damage bonus. And Gag Order silenced a target whenever you would interrupt them. It was fucking OP. So like the original talent tree was really, really good, and then over time, the good talents just got gooder, and the bad talents just got badder. And now, like, you have each talent tree, there's like one option, and everybody picks that one option.
As for the talent system,
especially
it
Warlock
would be
talents were
simplified
really fucking
even
cool.
further into the tier system, offering more impactful choices, but at a reduced quantity of just 6 points to invest.
Yep.
And most controversially, cross-realm zones would eventually be implemented.
I thought cross-realm zones were fucking amazing. I think servers are simply a technological limitation, and in a perfect world, they would not exist. I loved cross-realm zones. I had so much fun whenever they got added. It was awesome.
Players would be able to see and interact with one another. Due to the falling subscriber base brought on by the Cataclysm, there were far too many servers running for the
Mega
dwindling player base, and as a result, the worlds were starting to become barren. By grouping servers together, Blizzard aimed once more to breathe life into the world of Azeroth. While many looked at the expansion as something new and fresh, many more would be immediately turned off by its aesthetics, and due to the downward trend in subscriptions, skepticism if it would be a success all-time high. This was still far into the future though. The current focus remained to be Cataclysm, which at this point was still steadily losing subscribers.
I thought the Firelands patch was lit. Literally, right? Like, I mean, we had the Molten Front, which was fucking awesome, and then we also had Firelands, which was fucking awesome. Like, the PvP season was pretty good. Like, it was fun, man. It was so fucking fun. And it was like, whenever Mists of Pandaria got announced, I didn't like it. Like, I still thought it was, I still think it's stupid. I still don't feel like Mists of Pandaria fits into, like, WoW's aesthetic really that much at all. Like, if you compare it to, like, everything else in, like, Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3 and everything, like, it's just, like, what the fuck? Like, if Warlords of Draenor had the content that Mists of Pandaria did, Warlords of Draenor would be considered the greatest expansion of all time. That's my opinion.
In November, along with the final raid, Dragon Soul, the LFR system release. Similar to the Dungeon Finder, released in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, this would allow players to matchmake with others in a queue-based raiding mode, doubling down on their design of trading away critical social and RPG functions for the sake of convenience and accessibility.
There's also Transmog got added on that same patch, by the way. So, like, you see, obviously, that guy's need to get tier 2, that guy was using the sword, that's the red, not red belt battle, it's the last boss in Heroic Utgard Pinnacle. And so, obviously, this is not Cataclysm gear. And anyway, so this happened, and people didn't like Transmog because they felt like it took something away from the game. I was, like, very negative about it, and it did absolutely take something away from the game. But obviously, Transmog 4.2 is Transmog? Oh, really? Okay, well, yeah, I don't remember exactly. I thought it was 4.3. Well, anyway, so this happened a lot, and, like, people, like, 4.3 and, like, Cataclysm was, like, a really big turning point in terms of, like, the type of systems the game had. It was fucking tremendous.
To accommodate for the increased disorganization that came with queue-based even further than that of the base normal difficulty.
It was a fucking joke. Like, I remember one time we had, like, this rule, and I had this joke with my friends. So everybody, the person who gets the least in Raid Finder gets the most loot. So what I did is, one time I was doing Madness of Death one, and I literally took my sword and I swung at the first tentacle once to make sure I got credit for the fight, and I jumped off and I killed myself. I got rezzed up whenever the fight was over, looted the sword. Looted Girth Talak LFR. Yep, 390. I remember 390 item level sword. No big deal. Hey, it is what it is. We stay winning.
From this point forward, that players no longer needed to even join a guild to experience the endgame
Exactly.
content.
It was a really big
deal. They didn't
deal.
need to read strategies, and they didn't even need to speak a single word, in fact, as Blizzard deemed it an issue that 100% of the player base were not completing these raids in their entirety.
This actually kind of happened at the beginning of Wrath, too. Is because, like, you didn't need to have a guild in Wrath. Like, if you were in a big server, there were so many pug groups that it was so fun. Like, Wrath pug culture was one of the best things about the game. Like, I had so much fun back then. And, like, Cataclysm came out, and Cataclysm raids, like, Matt says you didn't talk about this, Cataclysm raids were way more mechanically challenging. Like, you look at the mechanics for an Electron defense system, compare that to something from ICC besides Putricide. Holy fuck. And so, yeah, it was way fucking harder. So, like, all the pug culture died out because you just had such a higher level of expectation to play. And I think that was bad for the game. I do. I think that hurt the game.
Accomplishment of clearing a more difficult than ever before, but as a result, the accomplishment would mean nothing from this point forward.
Yep.
During this time, another would-be WoW killer was beginning to generate interest. Star Wars Galaxies at this point had been shut down in order to bolster the subscriber base of Star Wars, developed by BioWare.
This was popular. FIFA!
It would be attempt number 2 for Star Wars on the massively multiplayer scale. This installment promised a unique and fully voice-acting campaign for each of their classes, a space shooter component,
That's
a
cool.
customizable ship, a thriving endgame for PvE and PvP, and perhaps most importantly, it was during the first time where the reigning champion showed weakness. While ultimately the previous contenders failed on their own merits, it can be argued that the tremendous success of the World of Warcraft during their debut certainly made them look worse in comparison.
Oh, absolutely.
Now that this weakness was showing, though, the timing was ideal. With the Old Republic dead, this direction that the game had taken throughout the Cataclysm looked at the Old Republic as the true successor. Players had been doomsaying the imminent demise of World of Warcraft ever since its launch in 2004. At this time, the game's downward trend would support their claims.
It was bad, man. It really was. Like, it was kind of depressing. Because, like, nobody really knew what was wrong. And I think everybody had a different idea. And now it seems a little bit more clear. But I think also another thing that Blizzard had literally no control over is that from the years of 2008 to 2011, really, whenever Cataclysm came out as well, social media really took over. So, like, for example, like in 2007, nobody was really using social media besides MySpace. In 2011, everybody was using Facebook. People were using Twitter at that point too, especially in 2012. So, like, social media played a massive role in, I think, hedging out some of the because it was one of the most fun things they had originally was that you could connect with people online with really no friction. But social media, the same thing happens.
So, the moment of truth came, the launch arrived, and like many other MMOs before it, the Old Republic launched too early in an attempt to release it during the holiday season. It was rushed out and would suffer from technical issues, game-breaking bugs, and questionable design decisions, most notable of which is their use of the Unreal Engine, which proved to be poor in an MMO environment. There would be a short delay between military testing as well, that's the actual landing.
Lag.
An issue they attempted to rectify by tying an animation for each ability to make it seem more natural. As a result, though, the combat felt very sluggish and awkward, and those used to the crisp and smooth nature of the World of Warcraft's combat system noticed a huge and immediate downgrade in quality.
See, back then, guys, you saw that clip, Bladestorm used to really mean something. Like, whenever you had Bladestorm on, that means that you were winning. Like, yeah, Bladestorm was a big deal.
This, combined with disappointing features, hindered its success. They had sold over 2 million copies and held 1 million subscribers, which is around a sixth of the World of Warcraft subscriptions at the time.
That's really good.
That any recent MMO came to rivaling WoW's popularity since its launch in 2004. But much like the Lord of the Rings Online, the Age of Conan, and Warhammer Online, the Star Wars The Old Republic suffered a similar fate, and the subscriptions quickly plummeted. Not even 8 months later, it would convert to the free-to-play model, often seen as the death sentence of MMOs. Today, the game holds...
That was one of the reasons why people didn't want WoW to go free-to-play back in the day. Is that, like, back then, a free-to-play game meant that you lose. It's like, the game's going free-to-play, that means...
Full of 5 servers, once again coming nowhere near being the WoW killer it was predicted to be.
Chosen one!
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that's about right.
Time marched on, and this is the Pandaric expansion released in September, and for the first time since the release
September 25th.
Expansion saw an increase in subscriptions, though the eagerness of the player base was notably diminished, as this would be the first expansion to fail in breaking sales records for Blizzard upon release, 30% below than that.
Dumb as hell, man.
Following this initial surge, they would be unable to halt the downward trend that had begun since the launch of Cataclysm, as subscribers would quickly drop from 10 million at launch to 9 million, then 8, and around 6.8 at its lowest point. A drop.
You gotta remember too, like in this Pandaric, the raids were also really fucking hard. Like Mogushan Vaults, like yeah, first 2 bosses were not that bad. First 3. But then like you get into like the fucking 4 Kings, that shit was hard. And then Ring of Fear, that was hard. Terrace at the end of spring, besides the first boss, that was hard. Like these fights were fucking hard. And it completely killed Pug rating. And it's like the casual players, like the casual dad gamers that are, you know, babies crying in the background, wife is fucking screaming at them, they're trying to listen to Van Halen, and you know, they can barely even hear what he's saying. Like, these dad gamers were just getting fucking edged out, man. They were getting edged out, and they were going extinct like woolly mammoths. It was sad. And, like, they just couldn't keep up.
Of over 30%, and the players were starting to feel the effect of a world that grew less active with each passing day. Cross-Realm officially saw its release.
There was an exception to this. In Throne of Thunder, the player numbers went up by, I think, 200,000. That's how big of a dick Li Shin had. He actually brought the player numbers up for 1 patch. Yep.
Would make the world seem sprawling once more, but once again at the expense of the server's community, which would be present only in name from this point forward.
Good.
Seeing the same players and guilds on your server consistently turned out to be an integral part of establishing a community that was only realized once it was taken away.
I actually, as I said before, I kind of agree with that, but I think it's so much more important to have a sprawling, like, massive world that you feel like you're just one little piece in. Like, I feel like, yeah, that was S-Fan. That was during, oh man, what was this? This was during, I think, the beta, wasn't it? Yeah, make Azeroth great again. That was our guild. Holy shit, that was our fucking guild. Yes, that was our fucking guild. Oh my god. Yep. That was so cool, man. Yeah, we had the hats and everything. And feels like last week, yeah, it's so weird to see that. And anyway, what I mean is I never really liked servers. I feel like servers were just simply a technological limitation. Like, I want to play with everybody on the same server all together. I want to be part of a massive, big, huge world. I think that's what's so fucking cool, man.
Part of establishing a community that was only realized once it was taken away. The world once more had players in it, but due to the large amount of servers that would be grouped together, players scarcely saw or recognized other players from previous adventures.
That's true.
The basis to form a community, which had been a key reason for its success, was now...
This guy, Xgenomar, this guy tanked dungeons for us in Classic WoW, in the Classic WoW beta. This guy was actually a fucking legend paladin. Like one of the best Paladins in Classic. It was insane.
Well, a distant memory. The world was in a predicament. Blizzard had a difficult process, and nearly empty world with little community, or a full world, ironically enough, with no community, though innocent enough on lunch. Cross-releasing today as a necessary evil for a problem, which true solution lies in recapturing subscribers now lost. An issue that Blizzard would struggle with for years to come. Was the once iconic MMORPG, now barely resembled an MMO due to its destroyed social structures, and barely an RPG due to its abandoned RPG elements, which would be taken a step further in March of 2013 as the game saw another major change with its
Thunder Forging.
First instance of forged loot. Released with the Throne of Thunder raid, loot had the potential to have an increased quality, regardless of the difficulty at which the players defeated the bosses. Having previously lost longevity in the raiding scene through the reduced base difficulty, they had hoped to regain it via randomized loot. And although it was relatively tame at the time of its release,
this made me so mad. Because, like, you guys don't remember this, maybe, but, like, Tier 14 was really hard. Like, Shexir Heroic was fucking hard. Shaw of Fear Heroic was fucking hard. Protectors of the Endless Heroic Elite was even fucking harder. And then this wasn't enough. This wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that we had to do this bullshit. Now we have to go and do it twice? What is this? Shaw of Fear was too hard? No, the Shaw of Fear was badly designed because the first phase was just a fucking, it was a formality.
Forging system would later be seen by many to get out of hand, and help demand and confuse the reward structure that had been standard for years. Time passed, patches released, new raids and systems debuted, and much changed with the expansion in the year of 2013. Something that didn't go.
Siege of Orgrimmar was the first tier they brought in flex rating. Flex rating was a really big deal. Because, flex rating made it to where you didn't have to fill slots. For all the time before then, you'd be at 23 people and that stupid guy keeps messaging you, you just invite him because it's better than nothing, right? And flex rating stopped that. It killed 10-man rating. I don't know if it killed 10-man rating. I feel like I like the smaller raid sizes of, I like big, I wish they had 40-man raids back in the day. But they can't make it as hard as they used to be. I prefer the larger group content, but there is a part of me that really enjoys smaller, focused challenge content, like Final Fantasy, like Savage or something. That's really cool. I think 40 and 8 or 10 man is I view them in a way equal, separate but equal, right? They're both really fucking awesome.
Was this ongoing downward trend of subscribers? In BlizzCon 2013, Blizzard would announce its next expansion.
This was a really big deal.
The player base would journey back to the world of Draenor.
Because everybody thought the subtext of WoW was that we were going back to Burning Crusade. That was the subtext of the game. It's we're going back to past the Dark Portal again. Going back into Draenor. We're gonna see some of the same characters. We've got Grand again. The same shit's happening. And so everybody was expecting a return to form. WoD was gonna finally save WoW.
An alternate
they hyped
reality
it up. It was so hyped.
Was corrupted into what they knew
Holy
as the
shit,
Outland
it was hyped.
and the Burning Crusade
Wow.
expansion. It's here where they would establish forward bases known as garrisons and launch a campaign against Garrosh Hellscream, the leader of the United Orc Army known as the Iron Horde, who are set to invade the land of Azeroth. At this point, the private server community had gained considerable traction as players yearned for the game that had originally captivated them and were becoming more and more unruly as the retail version strayed further and further away from its roots.
It sure
and
did.
They began campaigning Blizzard to officially develop and support this fast version of the game.
Back.
In a Q&A panel during the convention, one such player asked for an official answer on the possibility of a legacy server. The question was fielded by J.M. Bragg, at the time a production
I want to just again draw attention to the fact that all of his hair is completely black. look how much, like, imagine this guy's life, right? So he's a developer for WoW. Yeah, gas, right? But it's whatever, right? He makes some stupid fucking comment about some kid with a hood on that wants to play vanilla again. What the fuck does he know? Meanwhile, he can never live this down for like the entire rest of his career at this company. And then finally, after all of this shit happens, he becomes president of the company. And I did the math. Within 2 months of him being president, the fucking lawsuit happened with California investigating him. And then, big surprise, he comes back next BlizzCon, all his hair's gray. You know what? I kind of feel bad for him. I do. It really, like, fuck, that must suck, man. Jesus, yeah, stress. This guy got fucking wrecked.
For World of Warcraft, and he delivered this now infamous answer.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No.
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't. Remember when you had to like spam cities and say need a tank, need a tank, need a tank during the Burning Crusade days? You don't remember that because now you just push a button that says go to the dungeon.
That's right.
You don't want to do that.
Though the quote would draw immediate ire of the legacy community.
He was right, by the way. With most people, he was right. I think the problem was that like the game wasn't good because you had to spam trade looking for a tank. The game was good because it felt rewarding and fulfilling. People are looking, like, I never said, like, when I said, Classic was never a solution to the game. Like, you can't go back and try to solve the problem with an old game.
It would prove to be an integral moment in its development, serving as a rallying cry.
The biggest wrong of
all
time.
And more attention on the possibilities of developing such a version of the game. The answer was seen as dismissive and out of touch.
Yep.
Especially considering the fact that private servers at this point had grown to new levels of popularity.
They were really popular.
With this dismissive answer, the questions started turning into demands. Discussion of its viability or not.
Oh, bro, I remember this, the wall of no. There were these people that were so fucking invested in not having vanilla WoW. It's like, I can understand, like, you know what, Classic, I don't really care about Classic, but like, these people thought vanilla WoW was gonna kill retail. And so they felt like they had to protect retail from vanilla WoW and continuously spam about how bad vanilla WoW did. It didn't though. Like Classic came out and it was good, and then a lot of people moved over. They played retail, they're playing Classic. I think a lot of people play both. Yep, Classic versus retail. Yep.
Becoming increasingly disillusioned of the World of Warcraft and Blizzard in their current state.
It killed both of them, yeah. Ooh, free money!
As the players were leaving, Blizzard had sought to recover financially through an increased focus and impact of their cash shop. And against all assurances previously made shortly after their merger with Activision, they would finally turn the corner in December of 2013 and officially implemented the cash shop in-game, and along with it came the most impactful service to date, the level boost.
I would disagree with that. I think the faction boost was the faction change was much more impactful on the game. But in a way that people don't realize because they don't really see it. I think the faction transfer was way bigger. The thing is, like, the level boost, most people, see, like, you might not remember this, right? But, like, back in Mists of Pandaria, I never leveled any of my characters. There was, like, this one, like, Thunderdome area in Kunlai Summit that you would just pay somebody to kill the elites there, and you would tag them, and they would kill them, you get full experience, and you'd level to 90 in, like, 3 hours. See, people actually don't remember what really happened. I do. And that's what we did. So this wasn't some kind of crazy fucking thing. This was just that they added it and they made it legitimate. Yeah, that's what it was. Rackful did it? Yeah, of course. I mean, we all fucking did it, man. Absolutely. Transfers are really paying to fix a problem that's in the game? Absolutely. Yep.
Leveling was now skippable, as players could pay $60 to immediately be fast-tracked to the maximum level and jump right into the end game. By and large, the most impactful paid service at that point, what was at one point seen as a cornerstone of MMO design, was now skippable through an officially endorsed service. The consequence and investment of picking a class, investing time into it, leveling it, and learning it were thrown away, sacrificed like many other features for convenience, accessibility, and short-term financial gain.
I thought this was bad for the game for a reason that's completely separate from that. Every character that I've boosted, I have enjoyed that character less than characters that I didn't boost because I didn't get a chance to understand how the game played. I never really understood like how the class played. So like you get a 90 boost and like you're playing this character, you have no idea what your buttons do. You're constantly overwhelmed. You're in a consistent state of sensory overload. Holy shit.
Damaging its already crippled RPG design. The backlash was immediate, but little did players know it was just the beginning, and the standards of paid advantage in the game would sink lower and lower in the coming years.
It only gets better, boys.
Two things remained constant: the decrease in subscriber count and stagnation. The final major patch of the expansion had released in September of the previous year, 2013, and other than the addition of the level boost, the game saw no updates until the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch.
It was such a cock of a raid tier that they had to turn it into 2 seasons for people. They had Grievous Gladiator season, and then after that they had fucking Prideful Gladiator season because it took so fucking long. And then in WoD it happened again. We had Wild Gladiator and then Warmongering Gladiator. They were both inside the same tiers.
In October of 2014,
just like 9.2?
An astounding gap of 13 months in the game's development. This had marked the longest drought yet.
Yeah, just like where we're at now.
Subscribers fled the game in
Yeah, just like where we're at now.
as the Mists of Pandaria failed to retain the migrated player base. November came, and with it, the launch of the Warlords of Draenor expansion.
So if you want to understand how the release of Warlords of Draenor was, take a ball, like put lighter fluid all over it, and then set it on fire. That's what it was. That was it.
Despite the game's troubles,
couldn't play the game.
14-hour queue hype led to a rather successful expansion launch. Sales-wise, over 3.3 million players had expansions in hand, ready to step through the dark portal for a second.
It went up
time,
to 10 million subs.
Skyrocketed to 10.5 million, the highest it had been since the launch of the Mists of Pandaria, and it holds the record of the largest surge in subscribers for expansion launches. Though unfortunately for Blizzard, history would repeat itself in more ways than one. As once again, they had failed to retain this boon as problems soon arose after launch.
Oh, that's nice. Every fucking server that I even play on is offline.
Time to play a new server.
Oh, yeah. Looks like mine aren't the only ones.
That's
They've
right.
come under a DDoS attack as their servers were flooded with artificial traffic until they shut down from the strain.
It's kind of crazy to think about it because I remember this is whenever I started making content. I started making my YouTube videos. I had first started, I was making like videos off and on Mists of Pandaria, and then WoD came out, and the beta for WoD came out, and I played the shit out of it. Like I made so many fucking videos, and like that was the Asmongold channel and fucking everything, man. It was great.
This would go on for several days as law enforcement investigated into the matter.
Lizard Squad wasn't. I think it was
players
classic,
would become
wasn't it?
increasingly frustrated as the game remained to be mostly unplayable. The culprits were eventually stopped, but the damage had been done, and the game experienced its worst launch since its initial release in 2004. What's more, once the issue subsided, players were met with what is now widely considered to be one of the worst expansions in the game's history.
It was the biggest
main feature of the expansion, the garrison system, isolated players in their own instance.
I remember they added trade chat to the garrison, and I was on the I think you probably find it whenever I went and I said back then I said this is not good. Nobody's gonna leave their garrison. like, oh no. I said, yeah. They said no, and then Blizzard did it, and I was right, and they were wrong. So fuck them.
Followers, herb guard.
Oh my god, that made me mad.
You can use the auction house to correct buildings, although served as another feature to aliens already fractured from each other.
Like, y'all don't remember this, but like, that maybe you do. But like, you had to level up your followers because the missions would give you mythic level raid gear. Like, as soon as you unlocked it, you would get mythic level raid gear out of a box every week.
The problem made worse by
So you
the
had
massive
to
hemorrhage of subscribers that was yet to come. Just as how the expansion broke subscription records on launch,
Good
it
day
also
to
broke
you.
records for lost
See you
subscriptions
later.
shortly after. As
Bro, the day this came out, I made a YouTube video about it, and I remember I mauled it out so fucking hard that it was on the front page of Reddit. Like, this is in like 2014 or something. And it was like the front page, like this video got so many fucking views. It was a big deal. No, you didn't? Yeah, I fucking did. Go back and watch it.
What can I do for you? Saw a little enjoyment from what was eventually ousted as an unfinished expansion, as many of the features previously teased were left on the cutting room floor, including new systems, 2 major cities, battlegrounds, another zone, and even an entire raid tier, to name just a few.
That was the thing, is like everybody wanted, I think this is what was so frustrating about it, is like so many people wanted the game to be good, and it just fucking wasn't back then. Like, it was so frustrating for people because of that. It was awful because everybody thought that, like, okay, this is gonna be it. They're gonna bring everything back. It's gonna be the same as it used to be, and it just did not fucking happen, man. It was awful.
And between patches would grow even larger, and the patches themselves delivered less content. The expansion held a total of just 3 major raids throughout its entirety, with every expansion preceding having at least 4. The combined effect of instant
Yeah, it's like the raid content, like, people don't realize how bad WoD really was. Like, WoD was absolutely, legitimately fucking garbage. It was one of the worst raid tiers. Like, it was worst expansion. It was the worst expansion ever. I'm trying to find this video. I'm not really sure exactly where it is. It's one of these here. But like, yeah, this is one of my videos 7 years ago. It's one of these here. And it's like me just, oh, there it is. Yep, here we go. Let's watch 3 seconds of this.
What's up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today we're going to talk about the fact that in the first quarter of 2015, World of Warcraft has lost 2.9 million subscribers. And so just to put that into perspective for everyone here, that means that in a 3-month period, they've lost over 1/4 of their entire subscriber population. You know, the only real question I have to ask here is anyone really surprised? Is anyone really surprised whenever people decide that they're not going to pay money to play Farmville anymore? Is anyone really surprised when people get tired of running the same treadmill on 4 different difficulties? Is anyone really surprised that people get burnt out of an MMO that you don't even need to interact with another player in order to kill the last boss of the game? It is a huge disappointment to me. It's a huge disappointment to a lot of other people. Like, if you go to Twitch TV, look guys, if you want a comparison here, RuneScape has more viewers than World of Warcraft, okay?
So yeah, I wasn't happy about it. I wasn't fucking happy about it. Yep, that's right. I was a viewer count Andy. There you go.
Versus players flocking away, dead, and so more and more
Oh, that went on for 17 minutes,
each other in an attempt to get into the game. Limited to an alternate initial rise in vanilla at 5.5 million. It was announced shortly after that they would no longer report subscription numbers, stating that they are better indicators of business performance. The message was clear. Where they had lost revenue in subscriptions, they gained several times over via the paid level boosts.
Ain't that
Success was
something?
no longer tied to a healthy player base.
Ain't that
but
just a
rather
little bit
revenue.
of something?
And although looked at today as an embarrassing period in the game's history, Financially, it lifted the developer to new heights. Combined with other
Sure
cash
did.
out services, the level boost and the Warlords of Draenor played a large role in Activision Blizzard's best financial quarter to date.
This was Bobby's this was the rise of Bobby. You have to understand that, like, you see all of these other characters. Imagine Bobby is the puppet master behind everything. You know, he's got, you know, instead of eyes, he's got dollar signs instead of pupils. You know, he's just fucking moving everybody around and everything. Yeah, that's right.
The influence of the cash shop now fully realized,
Oh.
it would be taken a step further in March of 2015 with the addition of the WoW token, where players could exchange real money for in-game gold. Or on the other hand, use gold to purchase a token to pay for the subscription fee, or convert it into a balance only spendable on Blizzard products. Regardless of the method, it would prove to be a massive commercial success for
Huge success. People love buying gold. Why not let them buy gold?
Activision Blizzard, earning them record profits during record flow of subscriptions. A long time had passed since the cash shop's initial rise in 2008. Those who warned of the dangerous path that World of Warcraft was set on saw their predictions unfold slowly over the course of several years. At this point in the game's history, it was possible to buy levels, it was possible to buy currency, and with this currency, you could buy items and even services from other players, such as raids and the list of things that she couldn't buy was now far shorter than the list of things that she could buy. It was at this point that the game was deemed by many to be stable, as real-life purchases now had a clear and heavy impact on the power levels between different players.
The WoW token was was whenever the game was pay to win. The game was not pay to win before the WoW token. The game was pay to win after the WoW token. You could argue that boosting is pay to win. I think any reasonable person would say getting to max level in an MMO nowadays is not winning, right? It's just not. The WoW token was paid.
Previously warranted
I'll have to find my video about that.
Officially endorsed and advertised, and any semblance of integrity the game had left was abandoned. Though at this point, subscriptions were no longer being reported, morale of the game's future continued to decline.
It was so bad back then. Like, you guys have no idea how fucking bad it was. Like, WoD was by far the worst the game has ever been. And I find it so ridiculous that people even think that BFA was WoD was the hits of oblivion.
In August of the same year, at the Gamescom convention, the next expansion, Legion, would be announced. The long-lost Broken Isles were discovered.
By the way, I predicted that. I can go back in my other video predicting that it was going to be the Legion. I mean, it is nice.
And the Orc Warlock, Gul'dan, unleashed a second Burning Crusade upon Azeroth. It would feature a new class, the Demon Hunter, among many supporting systems, such as powerful artifact weapons that players could obtain and level up as an additional form of the class would have story-driven for most activities in the game. Players have a small chance to obtain powerful legends.
Oh, wow! That's exactly what it was. This is the perfect clip right here. Getting some food, and then somebody types LOL. There it is. Because you knew every single time. I remember, where was the clip of Zach? Oh my god, bro. Like, let me see if I can find this real quick. Oh my god. I don't know where it is. I'll find it another time. I remember Zach, we were doing like Nighthawk, and he got the helmet for Hunters, the Feigned Death helmet, and he immediately was like, oh! And he threw himself on the ground behind his fucking PC. No, not Zach Rar. Mick Larivi. Yeah, Mick
Daily
Larivi,
quest
yep.
hubs were replaced with world quests, offering a greater variety in daily activities, which had become standard for several years, and the Mythic Plus system, an infinitely scalable challenge mode to bring them to content.
Dude, Mythic Plus was actually...
I need a target.
After the Warlord.
This shit was so funny. Like, I'm sorry, but like, this shit was fucking hilarious. Like, whenever they had like the what was it called, Eki Homo, and it showed like all of the different characters or all the different servers. Wow, it was amazing. Yeah.
And would hope that Legion would be the expansion to redeem it.
Mythic Plus was lit.
Subscription numbers were no longer being reported. It had time to release a close record by Cataclysm several years prior, selling a total of 3.3 million copies on release.
Big day.
Quarterly investor reports would also provide promising data on the overall reception of the expansion, suggesting higher playtime per player. Mostly due to the success of its major features, the expansion as a whole proved to be a much-needed recovery. The order halls being public locations.
Also, it was like a focus on like core WoW lore. You know, you've got like Varian, you've got Illidan, you've got fucking Malfurion, you've got Tyrande, you've got Jaina, you've got all of those characters and everything like that. Like, that's what it was, man. It was great. Timestamp, what's this video? Oh, yep, there we go. Here we go. Let's see this. There it is. And there he goes. Yep. There it is. That was the, those were the good days, right? That was it. Here we go. Silver hand again? Fuck yeah.
System didn't harm its
That's exactly what Paladin is.
Much needed variety of players' daily activities, and Mythic Plus saw high activity as players enjoyed the ever-increasing challenge that they provided. Most of its features were received well. It's generally looked back at favorably by even the most embittered fans, with its criticisms primarily being dropped for its rewards legendaries due to their low drop chance and high impact on gameplay would be a source of frustration, so much so that they would receive a rehaul.
I'll keep in mind that on the announcement of Blizzard said you were able to target them. They said you would be able to target them, and they fucking lied.
Into the expansion, where players could purchase pieces with a new currency, and similarly, the forging system also contributed to this atmosphere of luck by holding early.
Look at that, bro! Like 880. Like, that's fucking insane. Look at that. Oh my god. Like, this was nuts. Like, I remember my mom, she got a ring in the first tier that was like it was like an 895 or an 890. It was like basically the item level cap out of a world quest. It was like a plus 65 Titan Forge. And I was like, what the fuck? How'd you get that? And she's like, I don't know, I just did the quest and it gave me this ring. Is it good? It's got a lot of stats. You get a number, that's a lot. And I'm like, yeah, it's fucking good, use it. I was so pissed.
The forging system also contributed to this atmosphere of luck by holding too much power and character progression. At this point, it was called Titan Forging, which had a much larger eye-level range compared to the more tame Thunder Forging first introduced in Pandaria. Items could roll up to 60 eye levels higher than which made it possible to obtain mythic rating quality gear from even the most mundane activities.
That's right.
World of Warcraft and MMOs in general already have a high amount of progression,
They
but
sure do.
this added layer of needing the right piece to drop and for that piece to Titan Forge shifted the reward structure for the investment to blind luck, and combined with the legendary system, many players would liken the expansion to a slot machine.
Oh my god, please show it. Please show it.
So overall, Legion
damn
quite
it.
well. It was met with troubling news from within. Senior Vice President of Story and Franchise Development, Chris Metzen, who had been with the company for 23 years
There he is.
had announced his retirement, citing burnout, panic attacks, and desire to spend more time with his family as the primary reasons for the decision. What a catch. Having been one of the most...
I didn't blame him. That's a smart guy. Like, he saw where things were going, and he was like, no, I'm done with this shit. This is too much, man. Too fucking much. It was weird whenever Chris Metzen retired, right? because like I remember I went back and I looked at like all my Warcraft 2 games and everything. Like he did a lot of the drawings. And I was like, man, this guy was here the whole time, man.
Public-facing figures and the primary visionary for the world of Warcraft and the characters who inhabited it.
He was
it
the
seen
guy.
as a tremendous loss, with fans and co-workers alike commenting on his influence on the franchise.
Great presenter, yeah.
Along with this newfound growth of Legion, the private server community had also been thriving, and in 2016, it was larger than it had ever been at that point, with most congregating to a server named Nostalrius.
Good lord. So many goddamn people.
Yep.
This is literally the server's been up for about
People
10.
were streaming Nostalrius on Twitch even. Like, nobody gave a fuck. You know who else was streaming Nostalrius? KO. KO was streaming private servers on Twitch. And I followed KO in like 2013 and 2014. Like, straight up. And I was like, this guy is an idiot, but at least I get to watch Vanilla WoW. Soda and S-Fan was doing it on YouTube. Soda did it as well. Yep, that's right.
Minutes. People are just entering.
And Alex.
Server
Don't
had been
forget
hosting
about Alex.
130,000 active players worldwide.
Oh my god.
That users had to seek out on their own. Their success proved to be their downfall, however, as in April of 2016, Blizzard had sent cease and desist letters for those responsible for running the server, threatening legal action if they refused to shut it down.
I personally hired to track
Who watched this whenever it came out?
numerous people. My employer, my owner of my company, learned information about me so he could serve me papers at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night, laying knocking on the door, crap out of my wife, waking up my baby daughter in the next room.
They would comply shortly after, as tens of thousands of players logged in one last time to say farewell to the community that they had built.
Fuck, yeah, see, they don't do that shit in Texas. I gotta tell you that.
Living within Blizzard's rights legally naturally sparked outrage in the community. A petition was created for an officially developed Blizzard Legacy server. It was 300,000 signatures in the span of 2 weeks.
Bro, I remember I got a tooth pulled the day that this happened, and there was a day before this happened, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna make a video about this and talk about this right now, and I just took this pain cure, and I fucking recorded the video.
Although it didn't provide immediate results, much like the infamous "you think you do, but you don't" quote, it would prove to be a critical moment in Classic's history.
This was massive, man. Then Soda made the video, and then I made the video, and then fucking like, dude, everybody started making videos. Like, Alex made the video. It was crazy.
The next expansion would be revealed in 2017, and players learned of the battle for Azeroth. Having thwarted the Second Burn Crusade, the Horde and Alliance now turned their attention on each other and would stage an all-out war over a new resource called Azerite.
Bro, I remember, so like basically we got invited to BlizzCon by Blizzard. Like Blizzard actually, like they paid for us to go out there and like everything. They put us in a hotel, like the whole fucking thing. Because we actually did all crap. It was like me, Paladin, Rich, we had Darian and Shogun. And the Horde went out to fucking California. And they told us, well, I remember like the guy sat us down and he told us what was going to happen. And I remember the day that he said the Classic WoW was going to come out, like he was right there. I just fucking ran around the hotel. I was like, holy shit, it's actually going to happen. Because to be honest, I thought it just was over. I thought it was over, yeah. Yeah, that was the year that Annie and I wore matching Murloc outfits. That's right. That's exactly right.
This resource would serve as a way to empower the new amulet, the level of which would unlock traits and accompanying armor pieces.
I never signed the NDA either. I never signed the NDA because it went to my email and I never checked my email. And like they were like, fuck it, it'll be fine. Whatever. And to be fair, I didn't tell anybody.
Pieces. The system had been set up similarly to the previously successful Artifact system, and advertised increased customization and player agency, allowing them to tailor their characters to suit their gameplay style.
And Azurite was a cool idea.
Power that makes you think twice about using a talent that you've previously written off. And you will
Makes you
soon
think twice
find
for playing the
combinations that reinforce your favorite way
Champion!
One of the main methods of obtaining this resource were through island expeditions, where a team of 3 players could fight against another team of players or AI for Azurite.
Dude, island expedition, PvP island expeditions were so cool, man. And like Wizard was just like, ah, yeah, never mind.
Throughout the island,
it was so
with
cool. I
random
loved
enemy selection, placement, and quests serving as the primary means of attempting to add replayability and longevity to
They
them.
tried.
Something that we're calling dynamic replayability. Every time you come to this space, the puzzle is different. You reach power in different locations. There are additional gameplay elements scattered throughout the world. Always a little bit different.
Warfronts were a new feature, which were reminiscent of the original strategy games that the MMO was based off of. In here, you would battle for resources, and construct and upgrade buildings, and fend off troops with the ultimate goal of defeating the enemy commander.
Dude, I was so hyped, man. I was unironically bat-chesting. I was like, what? They're adding in Warcraft 2. Oh my god, those are the fucking this is so cool. I was so excited for Warfronts, man. Jesus.
Wouldn't be the only announcements the World of Warcraft team had, though.
Yes.
And I want to talk about ice cream.
I recorded this.
Ice cream is great.
Because I knew it was coming.
Ice cream is one of my favorite desserts. Personally, I love chocolate, and I love cookies and cream. Cookies and cream is actually my all-time favorite dessert. But I understand that for some of you, your favorite flavor is vanilla.
This shit was fucking ridiculous, bro.
Well, for years they had claimed
Holy
that re-release
shit,
previous
this is
versions
so
of the game wasn't possible. World of Warcraft Classic would be unveiled, combining the updated Legion client with old data discovered on a backup of a backup held onto by an ex-employee. A small team dedicated their efforts in providing a home for the ever-growing population of vanilla fans in place of the one that they had not so long ago taken away. Details of development would follow shortly after, with a philosophy of changing as little of the game as possible in an effort.
The only thing I had to feel bad for Omar for is having to listen to S-Fend. Fucking dude, S-Fend would try to get a hold of the classic devs all the time. I'd be like, listen, so Paladins, they don't really work this way, and so what they really need is, so like, alright, so in patch 1.13, so there's a change, but then it got updated in 1.14, and so like what really Paladins need to have in order for them to be good, and like, my fucking god.
To most accurately recreate the experience as it was from 2004 to 2007, including a phasing schedule
They're originally going to do 4, and then went up to 6.
And as requested by the player base, the absence of many features such as the dungeon finder, looking for raid mode, and the endgame cash shop, to name just a few. Combined with Legion's recent success, the outlook of the game was looking more promising than ever before. The Battle for Azeroth, since its release in August of 2018, sold 3.4 million copies on its first day, breaking the record initially set by Cataclysm in 2010. However, when the honeymoon phase ended, the faults of the expansion started to become clear. The Azurite armor system, which was said to hold major traits that altered how classes played, instead were a series of incidental procs that rarely did anything other than increase damage done, healing throughput, and damage mitigation, with some being just base stat increases.
So I've got an absorb on my Azurite gear, and then my weapon has on proc absorb. And then so my gloves, if I have them proc, I have an absorb. And I also got a belt that every 2 minutes I can use it, and it gives me an absorb. And also my charge, and I have a leech too, so it heals me. And basically every arena game takes 18 minutes. and I lose. That was fucking ridiculous. Peace Stickman, 25 gifted subs. Thanks a lot. And by the way, that was not a joke. Like, that literally was what it was like when it was usable female. Weapon was the halberd. Gloves from first boss. Belt. Yeah, that was.
Makes you think twice about using a chemical you previously written.
That was
combination 99
Not at all as gameplay alternatives advertised.
Wow.
And despite BFA being centered around a faction war, Warfronts were exclusively a PvE game mode that were also nearly impossible to lose, with the only recorded losses resulting from the entire
That
team.
was me! That's whenever I fucking remember we got everybody together to lose the Warfront. Is that who I think it is right here? Is that Spurgord, who I know is in chat right now? No, it's not. Oh, I thought it was. Never mind. Okay, I thought, yeah, there were a lot of people. Like, this is back in the day, man. Look how much different I look. I look way different. I think it's because of my beard, maybe my hair too.
Waiting within the base until they were overwhelmed.
Wow, I'm screenshotting this.
Due to this extreme lack of challenge, they were seen to be more of a chore than anything else. And as Ryland expeditions, players saw little replayability in the randomized selection of enemies, and behind the bells and whistles was a simple and repetitive truth. Rush to get the required amount of Azerite before the enemy team does, and as a result, the game mode would become very repetitive very quickly.
It sure
The story
did.
would also come under heavy criticism. The whole expansion would have a heavy focus on Sylvanas Windrunner, the leader of the Forsaken of the Horde, and throughout BFA's 2-year run, she would face many major lore characters, and even entire armies, outwitting them at every turn or dispatching them with ease in combat. The decisions she made often came with no reasonable explanation or logic, leaving the player base in the dark for the entirety of the expansion.
Well, we're still in the dark, really. I mean, it still doesn't really make sense. Yeah. It was morally gray. Sylvanas was really cool, man. Like, she was actually one of the better characters in, like, Cataclysm and shit. She was great. I don't know what happened.
And many would liken her to a Mary Sue, a fiction archetype who is inexplicably free of any and all weakness. Such
Oh, no. Any Christorians? Oh, my God.
traits are also common to self-inserts, which there was also evidence. As a writer for Blizzard would roleplay as a major character, Nathanos Blightcaller on Twitter. The narrative structure remained ambiguous throughout the entire expansion, with most criticism being made towards the ending. As is custom with the final boss of an expansion since the Wrath of the Lich King, players were treated with the finale cutscene.
That
It
was
would typically
crazy.
run a few minutes and were fully voice-acted animation presentations.
Is it over?
No.
Long last.
Next week, they're going to kill you for invincible.
No king rules forever, my son.
Though for the battle for Azeroth, the old god N'Zoth would be the finale, with years of anticipation building up as his existence was referenced several times up to the final patch of the expansion.
Yeah.
And where players expected a similar voice-acted dialogue between the major lore characters and their thoughts on defeating a god, they were instead met with the same footage I just droned over in a monotone manner. The feedback was immediate and clear, and shortly after its premiere, the video would be unlisted as Blizzard tried to hide the blundered finish to a blunder of an expansion.
God! No, no!
Come on, guys, let's go play video games.
The initial wave of excitement quickly soured as all 3 major systems of the expansion fell short of their goals. They would later be addressed in major patches, though players would have to wait nearly a year
Heroic
following their
Warfronts.
initial release. In response, monthly active users would start taking a dive, and in an attempt to bolster engagement metrics, the expansion would aim to rely on what many described to be an excessive amount of activities
Plus
designed around
100
daily
depression.
and weekly tasks. By the end of the expansion's lifespan,
Bro, I actually have, I know y'all, but let me see if I can show y'all this. This is from, I started this back in the day. Let's see. Yeah, so that right there. Mirrors, rear guard sound. Like, I actually have a whole list of everything that I had to do. And I started that back in fucking in BFA. I wrote everything down. Where's Gmod? Oh, that I don't need to write that down. I don't forget it. Diligent farming. That's right. I remember this one came from his video.
This would be the full list. Many would comment that the entire game at this point had devolved into a list of chores that you had a limited amount of time to complete,
It was a good one.
aimed to keep players in a gerbil-like routine of going down a checklist every session instead of feeling rewarded for their playtime and dedication. Many would feel punished for missing sessions and question their reasons for playing to begin with. And 2 months after release, Blizzard would suffer another devastating departure as co-founder Mike Morhaime announced that he was stepping down from president, promoting then executive producer.
All black hair, by the way. Just a little bit of gray from plastic. Wow, everything's pretty much fine. You know, yeah, I got some rude comments, but it is what it is, right? And it just went downhill from there.
To take his place. More troubling still, these people weren't quitting game development, they were quitting Blizzard.
Yep.
Later, in 2020, Morhaime would announce a new company, Dreamhaven,
I messaged
and
him
under
about
its
this.
umbrella were 2 studios,
I got a response
Moonshot
back, too.
Games and Secret Door, of which many former members of
Mike
Blizzard
himself?
would be employed. In an announcement, they would stress that the goal of the company would be to prioritize product quality and player experience over short-term financial pressures, a development mindset that many fans say Activision Blizzard had abandoned long ago. Here's the next thing we later found Fortune Gaming is dedicated to developing worlds and tabletop experiences, and outside of World of Warcraft, the former Hearthstone director
There he is!
Road would watch the game's
Bro, this guy was like the entire soul of Hearthstone. Like, I never played Hearthstone, but every single time that I saw him do something about Hearthstone, it totally made me want to play. He was fucking great, man.
second dinner. Ex-StarCraft 2 developers would join Frost Giant and work towards developing a new RTS, and Lightforge game was opened by former Blizzard engineer Matt Shimbari and would later partner with Dreamhaven. Morhaime would be just one of many longtime talent leaving the company recently. Culture would be instrumental in what would later be known as brainwashing, afflicting the developer. Slowly but surely, the people who made Blizzard what they were departing. The rash of departures would be downplayed as ordinary for the world of game development, and that the games were more about the team rather than individual members. But internally, employees shared a different story. Rather that these people were irreplaceable mentors, that they drew inspiration from each other, and that each departure would be accompanied by a negative, cascading effect to those left behind. And just months later, another co-founder, Frank Pierce,
I forgot about this guy, because we never hear about him.
just Alan Adam as the last co-founder standing. Development with Classic was progressing steadily, and a release date for the summer of 2019 was announced. A new game in the Warcraft franchise was also revealed. Warcraft 3 Reforged would advertise fully remodeled characters and animations, as well as retuned maps and campaigns in this modern-day remaster.
As I said, does it strike anybody else as not a coincidence that the moment that Warcraft 3 Reforged came out and it was really bad, the entire WoW community stopped asking for reforging? You never hear about people wanting reforging anymore, do you? Yeah, because Warcraft 3 got that. We don't want that again. Nope.
With the set release year of 2019, this would later be delayed to January 2020 in an official post, citing delays in development
Yeah, people mauled
and the
it over
desire
this.
to retain a high-quality standard that the player base held them to. Though not pertaining to the World of Warcraft directly, what would transpire with the development of Warcraft 3 and other titles revealed the priorities and development practices of Blizzard as a whole,
that's
and set
bad.
the standard of how they would treat their community across all franchises,
Wow.
World of Warcraft included. This was also the BlizzCon where they
0.6,
announced
that was
the
like my
mobile
GPA
software
in
game,
freshman year.
which was met with a less than desirable reception.
I feel so bad for that White Chain. Like, I feel so bad for that because it's just like he knows. You know what I mean? Like, he knows. Like, it's just like, fuck. I mean, because they couldn't announce Diablo 4 yet. It's just stuck there, you know? Like, fuck. He's the fall guy, yeah.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
But that's a story for another time. To make matters worse, the following years, although financially successful, would prove to be the most damaging to their reputation.
Yep.
For reaching historic revenue earnings, treatment of their employees would become the focus of negative press. In February of 2019,
that's when they
800
fired
employees
Caden.
would be fired, many without warning.
Yep.
And were left crying in the parking lot.
Bro, I remember, like, I don't remember what it was, but, like, I think they didn't even know it was gonna happen until they just came in that day, and they were just like, hey, so by the way, you're done. It was awful, man. I felt so bad. Like, it's like, I know a company can do that, right? I get that, right? But it still sucks.
This is a trend that would continue through the following years of record-breaking profits, with massive layoffs and multi-million-dollar CEO bonuses following shortly after. In one instance,
yeah,
employees
Bobby's
would be given
$200
gift
million
cards to the
bonus
games that they just got fired from working on their way out. Hey, here's some Overwatch skins. You're fired, by the way.
It was really kind of impressive, you know? Like, they laid him off, giving him 90-day severance and $200 in BattleNet balance. That is just incredible. Wow. $200 in BattleNet balance.
And in other cases, the amount of people fired would be underreported. Combined with the poor reception of the Battle for Azeroth, the reputation had quickly started to sour
$200 million
from that of a
bonus.
community-first industry
Thanks,
innovator
Bobby.
to one operated on greed, predatory business practices, and the cold treatment of their employees and even their player base.
Jesus.
Little did everyone know, though, the worst was yet to come.
Uh-oh. Oh my god, bro.
Since 2008, they had hosted an esports event called the Arena World Championship.
Who was it that put their neck out there to fucking put this information out there? I think it was Snuts, right? Wasn't it Snuts that put his fucking neck out there? Yeah, I remember that. And then I brought that shit up, and everybody was like, holy shit. Because, like, nobody was going to know about this. So basically, he'll explain it.
2008, they had hosted an esports event called the Arena World Championship, or AWC, where high-end competitive players would face off in a tournament-style competition of the game's arena mode for cash prizes, ranging from $120,000 since its inception in 2008 to $280,000 in 2018.
Amazing.
For 2019, however, they had announced a special campaign where players would be able to contribute to the ever-growing prize pool. 2 new toys,
I think I bought one
the
of these
Transmorpher Beacon, and some faction
to support
fireworks
it, you know?
were made to be available in the in-game cash shop, and to encourage sales, 25% of the proceeds would contribute towards the prize pool of both the Arena World Championship and also the Mythic Dungeon International, stating that the support of the players would help take the WoW esports scene to the next level.
The next level. And the thing is, you know what was so sad about that? Was the fact that, like, so Sea-Doo, me, like, all of the PvP streamers pushed this. They said, you know, listen, like, if you want to support, like, the whole PvP scene, buy this, and, you know, like, you can support us. And, like, I even defended 25% because that was the same percentage that Dota took whenever they used part of the money that they got from whatever the fuck they sell regularly for the prize pool. So I defended this. I did. PvP streamers? Oh, I wasn't a PvP streamer. No. But, like, I mean, like, Vinruki, fucking, like, Sea-Doo, Zico, you know, all the normal guys, right? The Compendium. Because that's what their percentage was. So I'm like, yeah, this is industry standard. It's low, but this is what they usually do. I'm just glad they're doing something, right? So I actually defended this shit.
They also assured that a minimum prize pool of $500,000 would be offered, split up evenly between the 2 events. Considering that all announcements used verbiage such as help or contribute, the player base had assumed that this $500,000 prize pool would be funded by Blizzard as they had done for a decade prior,
of course,
and that the proceeds of the toy sales would, well, contribute to the total.
Why would anybody think that? Why would anybody think that this would possibly happen? Help a billion-dollar company? I have no problem with a player-funded, a crowd-funded prize pool for, like, a little fucking bullshit toy. Like, I think that's totally fine. Almost all games do this. It's not a big deal.
faded.
But
after the campaign had concluded, though, fans were dismayed to learn that they didn't help nor contribute, as Blizzard pocketed what they would usually put up and put the responsibility on funding the entirety of the prize pool on the player base, as confirmed by an AWC participant, Snuts.
Yes, so let's rephrase this. Holy shit! Look who it is! I remember this. So, wasn't I in VRD here? I think I was. People gave Blizzard so much money, Blizzard decided to give themselves even more.
Right. So they collected around $2.6 million, give or take. And instead of adding prize money for themselves, they just pocketed $2 million and decided to just use the money that the community gave us and pay for their tournament.
Both competitors and viewers expressed their anger, stating that they had felt deceived and that the good nature of those wishing to support the esports community of Blizzard were taken advantage of. Blizzard would never acknowledge the controversy.
They're so stupid for this. They're so stupid because they could have done this every year and made a free $2 million. All it would have costed them is $500,000 to make a free $2 million every year. But now they can't do it again because nobody trusts them. They're just stupid. Like, that's all there is to it. They're just straight fucking stupid. I don't understand why this happened. This was the most unnecessary, like, breaking of trust that Blizzard has ever done.
And the prize pools were funded solely by the crowdfunding campaign, and despite the self-proclaimed success in raising the funds, crowdfunding such as this would not be repeated for future tournaments, presumably due to the intense backlash that they received.
It hurt the players, it hurt the community, it hurt Blizzard, it hurt literally everyone. No, it was a literal zero-person win scenario. It didn't help Bobby. No, it didn't help Bobby. Like, I bet if I explained this to Bobby, he would say, yeah, we probably fucked up there. I can guarantee you. Do you honestly think that Bobby, he doesn't, do you really think that he would get in the way of his own money? No, of course not. Yeah, but like, you know, I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that if I explained it to Bobby and I said, this is what happened, and like people feel this way, Bobby'd be like, yeah, I think that's fucked up. Yeah, I actually think he would. He probably had no idea about it. Oh, this was it.
World of Warcraft wasn't their only franchise that would be at the center of controversy.
No, it just kept getting better.
The Hearthstone division would attract the attention of national media.
Here's a story which just won't go. Activision Blizzard. It has suspended a gamer and taken his prize money away because he made comments supporting Hong Kong protesters.
The protests in Hong Kong were at their climax at this point, having been a British colony until 1997, when sovereignty of the territory was returned to China. Hong Kong would retain a separate legal and economic system with basic human rights safeguarded, in contrast to other cities in China, which are heavily governed by the authoritarian central government.
Everybody is a number.
In March of 2019, a bill would be proposed that would allow extraditions of fugitives to mainland China, which infringed on these rare freedoms, and due to China's opaque legal system, would allow the prosecution of citizens for political purposes.
Yeah.
Citizens held marches and protests, which quickly turned violent after they were fired upon with tear gas, rubber bullets, pepper spray, and even live rounds as the situation spiraled out of control.
Of course.
In October of the same year, a tournament competitor, Jung Naiwan, or Blitzchung, after a victory took out a face mask similar to those being worn by the Hong Kong protesters and voiced his support to them, quoted, "Liberate Hong Kong, the revolution of our times." The feed was quickly cut, and the following day, Blizzard announced that Blitzchung had been banned from competing further in the tournament.
The two guys that were hosting it also got banned.
In addition to revoking the prize money that he had won up until that point, totaling $10,000. Additionally, he would be banned from competing for a full year, and the two casters interviewing Blitzchung at the time would also be fired. As a
Like,
result,
I can understand why they, like, here's the thing, right? It's like, I understand why Blizzard did it, but they went above and beyond by, like, taking away the guy's money and everything. Like, they definitely did. Like, yeah, it's like they have to send a message. I think that really, if, like, any other company besides Blizzard did this, nobody would have really cared. But it's because Blizzard made a lot of statements on social issues over and over and over that, like, this is happening, like, at the same time, like, question marks? Well, okay, so basically, here's like what I'm saying, right? It's like, it was against the rules for you to talk about political issues on the broadcast, right? And on top of that, putting the company and effectively like hundreds of people's jobs at risk by losing access to selling a product in China, is this truly the morally right thing to do for the company? I think you can make an argument that it's not.
Greetings.
And so I can see why they would make that
Light bless
decision
you.
on a pragmatic level.
Be careful.
Yeah, like, and I can understand
The
people say
Alliance.
yes, sure.
Light
You can
bless
say
you.
yes. I
Go with
understand
honor.
you guys say yes. But I guarantee you,
careful.
if it was your mom or your dad who lost their job and now you're fucking homeless because of it, you're gonna think about it a little bit different. So yes, it's always people are always able to ask somebody else to take a moral stand and make a massive sacrifice because they're completely separated from the problem. But I don't think that this is what I think it's so presumptuous to think that's going to happen. Yeah, it's easy to talk like, oh, this is what they should have done. No, it was not a completely morally black and white situation. It was absolutely not. No, yeah, it's virtue signaling. It's 100% virtue signaling. Exactly. I'd follow the money every day. Yeah, who asked? You're here. Not at my expense, though. Yeah. Why bring the subject up in the first place? Blizzard did the right thing by banning the player. I don't know if they did the right thing. I think that they overcommitted on punishing him. Does that make sense? Why is this any different than companies standing up for Ukraine now? Well, it's very simple. It's because companies don't stand to lose money for standing up for Ukraine. It's literally that simple. They don't stand to lose money. Like, China is a massive fucking market. Do you think Blizzard is going to lose like billions of dollars in revenue?
Have a good one.
Over being able to give somebody a platform to spread a political message? Do you think they're going to do that? No. They're not going to do that. There's thousands, about 1,000 people that work at the company. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, it's massive. Russians still get paid for WoW subs. Yeah, well, Russia's a lot smaller than China. China's fucking huge. I understand that there's some people that don't like this opinion because they feel like it's a, you know, it's like I'm not treating it as a book, right? It's
you're
like,
a tall one.
you know, you should do the right thing. I think, yeah, you should try to do the right thing. But I think it's always
Looking for something
easier
specific?
to tell somebody else
Safe travel.
than to do it yourself.
Activision Blizzard would swiftly come under heavy criticism as many saw morality cast aside for vested financial interests.
Yes, exactly. And I remember people got so mad at me because I said what I just said the day this happened. Imagine how mad everybody was. People were fucking furious that I said this. And I said very clearly, I said, no one's going to give a fuck about this. Next expansion's going to come out. People are going to go back to playing the game and it's completely forgotten about. And by the time the BlizzCon comes around, there's going to be a handful of protesters and no one's going to care. And I said that. People got so fucking mad, and I was right.
Another team, American University, put out their voices to the protest, which was also quickly censored and condemned by Blizzard.
Spirits. And that is game WPI with the win. The winners just...
Similar to Blitzchung, they would also be banned from competing in future tournaments. This time for 6 months. Shortly after, then President J. Allen Brack released a statement saying that the penalties were not appropriate and that
What can I do
Blitzchung's
for you?
ratings would be
Light bless you,
reinstated
or the
to
Alliance.
months, that his ban would be reduced to 6 months, down from 12, and also state that their business dealings with China had no influence on the initial penalties. Brack.
Why even say that? Like, I don't understand. Like, why even say that? Like, why? Because, like, it's such obvious bullshit. Like, I mean, this is clearly not true. Why go a step farther to assert a lie? Why not just say, yeah, we're gonna undo this, it is what it is, right? That's it.
would open up the following BlizzCon with an apology to the mishandling of the situation, stating
We
that
don't know that. He never said what situation. Maybe he was talking about another situation, Mad Season. He never said what situation. He just said he messed up. What did they mess up on?
their actions would speak louder than words.
Yeah, he just said they messed up.
Are gonna matter more than any of these.
A phrase that the Blizzard community would quickly become very familiar with.
That's right.
In the same BlizzCon, the new expansion for World of Warcraft would also be revealed. Players would enter the Shadowlands
I remember watching
and
this
join
live.
factions called Covenants. Similar to the Order Halls of Legion, these would serve as a base of operations for players to conduct their campaign and also gain unique abilities and perks.
Oh yeah, I
They
got
would
killed
also
by that
explore
yesterday.
The Tower of Torghast, a randomized 1 to 3 player dungeon crawl with powerful affixes to power up their characters, and upon completion, gain the ability to craft legendary armor
Soul
pieces,
ass!
similar in function to those of the Legion expansion.
Oh, yeah!
Though following the poor reception of the Battle for Azeroth, many more would look at the reveal through a more critical lens.
Well, I think everybody was really positive about Shadowlands whenever it first got announced, besides the Covenants. People thought the idea behind it was cool. Like, I remember, like, that's what a lot of the sentiment was from, like, at least my community. Like, yeah, there were people that didn't like it, but I felt like the overwhelming majority of people were like, yeah, this is cool, all right, fine.
Though their current projects were met with mixed reactions, World of Warcraft Classic had seen its release in August of 2019 to surprising
right there.
success. Initially holding only a handful of servers, it was quickly overwhelmed, and new servers were created to hold the surprising amount of people that had longed for the Azeroth of years long past. Upon launch, interest was so underestimated that queue times would balloon up to several hours, and even months following the release for some of the highest
It was
population
insane,
servers.
bro. Like, I had to
Massive.
download a program to where I could log in on my phone. So I had to remote desktop on my phone to avoid the queues.
Aspects of the game would age well, such as a renewed sense of community and a heavy focus on traditional RPG elements, and other aspects such as the grading scene and an eventual stagnation of content would remain to be problems within the game, as well as botting. As the game grew in popularity, so too did third-party
Botting,
websites
we love
offering
botting.
in-game items or services in exchange for real money, a practice that's against the game's terms of service.
What?
These sites oftentimes
Oh, what are they trying to cock block us for? Come on.
and Blizzard would do anything in controlling them throughout the duration of Classic, even though they were relatively easy to spot by the players, as displayed many times by content creators within the community.
I found a warrior mob Mars having a bit of trouble.
I love watching these videos because I literally reacted to them. I watched this exact video.
To his target.
Cheating had always been, and continues to be, an area where Blizzard would perform poorly,
Yeah, it
even in
sure
the current
is.
version of the game. But due to the more fragile nature of the economy of World of Warcraft presence in its community, it would have greater negative consequences.
It was great, we
Cheating
got
was
free
to remain a
materials.
problem area due to its traditional design and the absence of an overly intrusive cash shop. It proved to hold the attention of a wide player base consistently through its year-and-a-half run, where not every re-release was to be met with the same success.
Oh!
Warcraft 3 Reforged was released in the following January, though the code is made to maintain a high-quality standard. It was universally met with negative reviews, as players saw little polish with the remaster, citing poor UI, ridiculous bugs, low
Copious.
frame rate, missing features from the original, and
Jesus.
consistent crashes. The latter of these issues would take the spotlight in the competitive scene shortly after. In their very first major tournament, in a quarterfinal match between two top players, Moon and Thorzen, a crash occurred at a key moment. The score was 1-1. Thorzen seemed to be on track to take the win, but suffered a disconnect mid-match.
Thorzen smells good in the water. He's going in for the kill here. We have Banish ready. Mountain King was a little hurt. All buying time for the towers. We have no Breath of Fire, by the way. It is Drunken Haze, so big mischance.
Wait, why'd they
on these
stop
Dragonhawks.
attacking?
And
Wait, what?
that fight was the most important fight in this game yet.
match would then be
Damn.
restarted despite Thorstein's advantage, and he would once again retake the rematch, and once again suffered a disadvantage.
No way! I didn't know it happened twice.
It looks like another drop.
Man, that is crazy. I didn't know it happened twice. Holy shit, the 2-time.
It just happens. It's Thorstein, I think he in this game. This is so frustrating.
The match would be replayed for a third time, and Moon, having adapted to Thorstein's strategy at this point, was the one to take the lead and eliminated Thorstein, resulting in the forfeiture of the large prize pool. He surely would have won twice, though they are the most...
See, like, I would have, like, if I was Blizzard, what they should have done is they should have just said, listen, you guys are going to play a shell match. It doesn't matter who wins. You're both getting the maximum prize money. You're done. Like, that means that you're going to do a rematch, but the outcome doesn't really matter. Like, that was it. That would have been, that was the solution that should have occurred.
Because they happened during a quarterfinal match.
And like, what's so crazy about this is like the amount of money that costs is like nothing. I mean, like, you have to understand, like, these guys have like million and $billion budgets. Like, we're talking about like what, like fucking $50,000? Who gives a shit?
It would not be the only discounts to occur in the tournament, as competitors in lower level brackets would also become victim of 2 random drops at key moments.
10K.
Years later, internal investigations would reveal that they knowingly released the game in an unfinished state, unwilling to delay it for a second time, in fear of losing the pre-orders they had already amassed.
Yeah, you got to get those pre-orders.
The entire project was hamstrung by a low budget due to its low potential for being a big earner for the company. Internal sources would also share their struggles with exhaustion, anxiety, and depression for more than a year, and that their warnings of the game's unfinished state being largely ignored in order to make the tight release schedule. Reviews continued at a steady pace.
Bro, like, that's just, like, I'm gonna be honest, that does not look like Arthas. Like, I think back and it's like, what's Arthas? Like, that's not Arthas, bro. Like, that's some other dude.
As players were less than impressed at the level of polish that they received compared to what was promised. The classic game teams would be shut down, a new team now in their place, and in a bit of irony in a Bloomberg interview, a Blizzard spokesperson repeated the same failed promise made by Brack a few months prior, that their work and actions would speak louder than words.
Yeah.
A delay was also announced for Shadowlands, this time from October to December. Once more citing that extra polish is needed before the release can be made.
And I remember whenever that happened, I was actually so happy. It was during an all-call did they announce that, and we were so happy. We were like, fuck that, we're actually going to delay the game. Thank God it's actually going to be good now, because like the game was just not ready.
I can't cast it. Blizzard proved that they had many times that selling copies wasn't Shadow and Soul sold 3.7 million copies and launched at once. Much like its predecessor though, not long after the initial launch, the expansion's major features would be the focus of critical attention. Torghast, or Torghast as players soon likened it to, expeditions from the battle for Azeroth quickly retrieved as with most systems that reset on a weekly timer.
Dude, I think they've made Torghast a lot better over time, and I think it's better now than it has ever been. But like, I just, what I really hope they don't do is they don't just stop doing it in the next expansion. They don't just give up, etc. It's still shit. I think it's a lot better, and I think that they can continue making it better. Yeah, I think that they should continue trying.
That's ready. Due to the player's inability to mount, it was seen to be unnecessarily frustrating to navigate and formulate to other such zones released in the past. By now, players were noticing a pattern of high-level zones with new reputations, excessive daily timers such as quests, very elite enemies, and treasure chests.
Oh, that was
As
fun.
for Covenants, they received a mixed reaction. Some praised the unique abilities and aesthetics obtained from choosing a specific faction, and others condemning them for being unbalanced.
Condemning.
They had
That's
made a poor
good.
choice.
Some people's classes, 40% of their damage is just their Covenant ability. All over the place.
Bro, do you remember how many videos Preach made about this? It's like, I remember Preach during Legion made so many videos about how the legendaries were going to be broken. And then Preach during BFA made so many videos about how Azerite was going to be broken. And then during Shadowlands made so many videos about how fucking Covenants were going to be broken and are broken. And like finally, like he got a hair transplant and quit the game. And that was it. Yeah, he quit the game. He was done. Like it was enough. Like, all right, I get it. Yeah, that's fine.
We're a mess.
Some would also take issue with content from the other
making as main.
as choosing one meant excluding from others. A time-gated quest was available should they feel the need to switch. For better or for worse, Blizzard was underground at launch, but also stated that it had the ability to pull the ripcord to give players more freedom with Covenants should the systems be used poorly. This comment would start a movement called Pull the Ripcord, which they would comply to nearly a year later at 9.1.5. As for the story,
and this is under the context, by the way, the context of everybody leaving the game. Like, everybody left the fucking game because they were just like, well, fuck this. I don't want to deal with this shit. Like, this is dumb. And like, obviously he's not talking about this, but that was the exact time where everybody moved over to playing Final Fantasy. Yeah, they admitted they said there wasn't a ripcord, and then players were like, oh, okay, well then never mind. And then they stopped playing, and they're like, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't mean that there wasn't a ripcord. We just mean that, there is actually a ripcord. We're gonna do it, okay? I just found it. Right here.
See it as even worse for Azeroth expansion, but somehow even more confusing and contradictory, requiring external literature to follow along, as even YouTube channels dedicated to the lore of the game and difficulty piecing together the disorienting storylines. They would not be shy in expressing their frustration.
There he is.
How many books are you gonna fucking get out of me? How much money am I gonna—
I can't believe Pyro's getting so mad at Final Fantasy. This is so totally out of character for him. Wow, I don't understand this.
To pay before I can finally explain the lore to the people that want to know about it to the degree that it's actually comprehensible.
I will never
Major cutscenes would continue to be listed on their YouTube channel in response to
oh my god.
Only time will tell if it will go down as good or unexpected, but players are quick to note the similarities between it and the major systems are released in a poorly implemented state, only to be addressed in patches several months later. And many at this point would take notice to a rising contender within the MMO genre. Over the years, Final Fantasy XIV slowly but surely gained a sizable subscriber base. Following a failed initial launch in 2010, after listening to player feedback, the MMO was remade in relaunched in 2013. It would see steady growth due to these improvements and also the shortcomings of the world of Warcraft.
I remember during that speech he was giving, I was like, man, like, are we sure he's the bad guy? This guy doesn't seem that bad at all. I kind of like him.
As players became increasingly embittered with Shadowlands, they started migrating over, including major streamers and YouTube channels.
Bro, look at that.
They started migrating over.
Look at that, man. Like, that's what happened. We're quitting WoW. I remember I watched this one too.
Including major streamers and YouTube channels, creating more.
Damn. As for Chris, I have to start making the game that we need to make. That's right. Oh yeah, that's right. I made it. Remember whenever I would write twit-longers? So like, you know how people would usually use like twit-longers to like cancel someone? Like I would cancel entire games. I would write like these massive fucking twit-longers, and they got super popular, by the way. Like the WoW one that I did, it literally had 1 million people read it. Like there were 1 million, not read the whole thing, right? But like there were 1 million views on the twit-longer, which was fucking wild, man.
employees would take shots at each other over social media. Though subscriptions remained to be hidden, third-party analytics began favoring Final Fantasy XIV to be the most active MMO, with Blizzard.
That was such a bullshit article, by the way. I still am not convinced that Final Fantasy has more players than World of Warcraft. I am not convinced that this is the case. It was a completely bullshit article. The website was using bogus statistics. I don't think so. It might be close. You're right. It could be close. But I don't think it is. Like, based off of everything that I know, it seems like that's not the case. How do you know? No one knows, but I felt like the tools that they used in order to come to the conclusion were incomplete.
Blizzard even sending out surveys attempting to gauge interest in the game. For the first time in many years, it was becoming clear to many that World of Warcraft was losing its hold on the genre.
Yeah, that was definitely true. Like, regardless on how many subs each game has, I think that what he said is true. Like, yeah, it was definitely losing its hold on the genre. Bro, do you remember? I remember whenever I made my video, and like I didn't really talk a lot about the Dark Portal Pass whenever it first came out, right? I made a video about it, but I didn't really go over and over. And like, oh, it's just Asmodee. Oh, I hate him. He's that. He's gonna spit on me. And they were so upset about that, right? And then Mad Season dropped a 1-hour mixtape. Both sides fucking just demolishing the Dark Portal Pass, deleting the deluxe edition. And we watched the entire thing. It was so good.
It's treason, then.
At BlizzCon 2020, the next step for Classic was announced, and as many expected, players would begin their second journey into the Outland in the Burning Crusade. Much like the base game, the first expansion was created closely to the original run in 2007, but with one exception, the addition of a major development, the character boost.
We are going to offer a level 58 boost for purchase, but it does come with some restrictions. So it's going to be one per account. It's not going to be usable on Blood Elf or Draenei.
For many players, the feeling of anticipation was quickly replaced.
TBC equals the body of charity. The Bobby charity. Oh my fucking god, man. It's like the TBC having a level 58 boost. I don't know, like it wasn't really that big of a deal. I think it was more of like a, not iconic, but it was more of like a symbolic thing. Where it's like they have the boost and it's like, okay, this isn't really the way the game was anymore, right? It was just like it sends a message. And it was weird, man. The Wrathgate Pass? Oh, absolutely.
Character boosts, among other paid services, such as the WoW token, were specifically stated not to be released in the classic version of the
need to get closer. That's not the same thing,
and as they didn't exist back then, ultimately, the character boost one new service. 58 and was offered in a bundle that also included other digital rewards, including a mount, a pet, and a toy. Ignoring the fact that they had lied,
I never bought
Blizzard was pitched and it was intended for new players who didn't have the time to love it.
There's a lot of my friends, for example, who maybe didn't really play Classic when it first came out, right? And so now they're behind, and they're interested in playing the Burning Crusade. We want to make sure that those people are served too. And one of the ways we can do that is provide a boost to people who are interested.
I feel like a lot of the people that like that pulled in, like those people probably quit at 70. Because like the thing is like, yeah, you can make an argument that like, yeah, the leveling process is too long and it's like, it's a barrier to entry. Yeah, sure. But like, if you think that, like, so show them the flow chart of the attunements. And then be like, okay, so you can spend $60 or $40 so you can get to this flow chart faster. You still want to play? And I bet a lot of those fucking dad gamers are going to think, you know what? Let's go back to Minecraft.
The service was purchasable by everyone, even by those who already had high-level characters. In addition to the boost, Blizzard had also announced classic-era servers for those who preferred the advancement of the game.
There's I wouldn't say dozens, that's too many. There's a dozen people.
There would be a $35 charge in transferring characters to both sides.
Oh my god, I forgot about this. Listen to this. I talked over him. Listen real quick. One more again.
As there would be a $35 charge in transferring characters to both states of the games. As characters that past a year and a half leveling and gearing.
Wait, Matt Season got the shield? When the hell did he get the shield? I didn't know he had that. I never got that. How the fuck did he get the shield? That son of a bitch. That's the face of death. It's an axe shield. Yeah, I didn't play. Yeah, you're right, I didn't play, but still, man. I mean, it's just like, fuck.
He dangled in front of their faces in the login screen behind the paywall. The outrage was immediate, and Blizzard would respond by lowering the charge to $15, down from $35. As for
I thought it would be fair. So $15. It went down to you know what you call that? That methodology, by the way? There's a sales term. Anchoring is whenever you set the price in the consumer's mind, and then you use that price to negotiate down to what the actual price that you're using. There's another term for it, though. If you actually talk about it, it's called it's the same.
The community was quick to point out the masters charging such as the abandonment of the
Wait, yo, McConnell, you didn't hear about that. You heard about that, right? Don't tell me you didn't fucking hear about that. You know that there's a character literally in fucking in the mobile game. His what? What did you say it was called? His name is Sneed. And he has an ability called Sneed's Greed. I swear to God. Like, I swear to fucking God, it's real. It's actually a real thing. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, is this fucking real? Like, yes, it is. Oh my God, it used to be called Chuck? I have no idea. But yeah, Sneed's Greed. Wow. Okay. So yeah, $35 fucking dollars for that. They went down to 15. People thought they won. It was better, but it was still.
And how bots, which had already been a major problem in Classic, would become empowered with the ability to skip towards the end game, making them capable of farming higher level materials almost immediately, thus having a greater negative effect than they previously had.
Remember whenever I did the graph for this? Remember that graph? Remember that graph? We don't have the NFT for it, but you know, maybe I should.
He also warned that except major challenges would lead to the road, and that it would suffer the same fate as the game that spawned its existence to begin with.
I'm glad they're speeding up the release of like all the classic servers and everything, and just, you know, like now how TBC pretty much the whole life cycle of the game is less than a year. Like, I hope they go even faster with Wrath. That way they can have the classic servers catch up to the Shadowlands servers, and everybody can be playing on like the same patch again, you know? Like, that's, I mean, hopefully that's what's going to happen, right?
In addition to creating an unfair, paid element that let players pay to skip what other players had already worked for.
Yeah.
Though these worries would ultimately be ignored, and the level boost was released despite the backlash. Footage of boosted characters
I remember that one.
Started to appear immediately.
Literally every single bot without fail was a level 58 boosted character. The limitation of one per account for bots is completely irrelevant. As expected for them, it's just a huge time save from actually having to level.
And many saw an old world now abandoned, as the boost loaded the majority of the player base directly into the Outland. One of the core design philosophies of Classic had been betrayed.
Yeah, I think so, and that's what the problem was, right? It's like, I don't really have a problem with them doing like games and shit like that. I think, you know, I'm much more liberal with the microtransactions and newer games. Because for newer games, it's for a newer audience, for newer problems, and for a newer world. But the difference is that this is an old game. And Classic Burning Crusade is supposed to be Classic Burning Crusade. It's not supposed to be Fantasy 14. It's not supposed to be Wrath of the Lich King. It's supposed to be Burning Crusade. And that's what it should be. Especially in terms of that system, you know? Don't make a leveling thing then? Yeah, that's exactly what TBC would have been dead day one without the boost. Boost saved the game. I don't really think so. I think TBC was the WoW enthusiast game. Like, if you were a TBC player, you are a WoW enthusiast. You are already 60. I feel like TBC, so like classic WoW, this is my opinion, right? Is like classic WoW appealed to like fucking everybody. That's why it was like this massive cultural event. It was huge in 2019, and it still continues to be huge for me. Burning Crusade was only really appealing to people that were already 60 at that time. They were already 70 at the time of Burning Crusade. So you don't have the people that play classic WoW and they got to level 34. Well, no, because they don't get to there's no new extra nostalgia for that person because they never got there. So false appealed to me. I didn't play classic. I don't know. I think that there was an option. I think that you're right. There were some people that were raiders and they were like, well, TBC's going to have more interest in raids. But I think that's what it was. I think the TBC didn't appeal nearly as many people as classic did.
A large portion of the player base at this point were recognized in World of Warcraft due to in large part of the overzealous cash cycle, which was promised to be absent in recreation. Shortly after, a WoW token with the green Crusade background was made up, and players took to the forums, creating numerous threads asking for confirmation.
I don't know why people were so mad about the WoW token in classic WoW. I mean, you can just buy gold and nobody got banned for it anyway. Like, who cares? Like, I mean, functionally, it's the same thing. I mean, really, like, it was the same thing. Like, yeah, obviously it would kill the game and it would be bad. But, like, it was already killing it. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's... Classic token wouldn't have mattered? Yeah, it just doesn't matter. Yeah, we deserve this. Yeah, there you go.
And once more, we're simply ignored. Still to this day, several months later, there's no confirmation yet or no of their plans to implement the terms of the game. This betrayal proved to be the final straw for many of the player base, including the highly intelligent, not monotone, and physically attractive YouTube user Nancy Show, whom after 16 years playing and 7 years on YouTube, had announced his retirement. The heart and soul now ripped away once more. Classic's population began to wane drastically, and the remaining players would comment on the second foray into the Outland becoming more and more empty with each passing day. Some of those who remained chose to rebel by targeting other players who had purchased the level boost.
Fight the good fight. Go out fighting. You can't... Don't stop. You can do it. Service unofficial? Oh, you're definitely right. It legitimizes it. You are absolutely, definitely 100% fucking right.
By performing an in-game emote /spit on anyone seen riding the Deluxe Edition mount. In response, Blizzard disabled the emote when targeting another player.
I will have it be known that Blizzard disabled /spit before they made it to where you couldn't get the
You know what gets me? I don't know if it was me or exactly you, but it happened with you. Maybe it was me, I'm not sure, actually. But they released the mount.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks you came up with the idea of spitting on people. With the storm mounts, but who really came up with
I have to deal with this shit. I have to deal with this fucking shit. And then if it gets better, I see we've got S-Band in the chat too. I've got to deal with all this. So I'm getting this from the retail Andes that are mad at me. And then the classic Andes, I'm getting gold. And so then they're hating on me. And then S-Band and McConnell were messaging me off stream. They're like, hey, so I need 1,000. get me to go back into class. They tried to get me to go back to streaming because we were running out of gold to raid the
That's true.
Like, it had nothing to do. He's like, oh yeah, it's Dash Cutter. Yeah, I gave Dash Cutter. Like, I gave it my mods too. Yeah, and that wasn't because like, oh yeah, let's come stream again. No, like, we really gotta make this happen. I remember one time we did that to Dash. That was disgusting.
We made so much gold off of these idiots.
I think it was like 18,000 gold.
You know, I gave most of that away to Paladin so that Olympus could get through Max. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know I did that?
No, I didn't know that.
I did do that.
Wow. Did you know whenever we transferred, I paid for a lot of people's transfer.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah. So listen, I get it. We gotta do what we can for the guild, man. I haven't raided with them for a long time though. Like, I need to go back and transfer over.
Why? You don't care?
Oh, yeah, but like that'd be fun to do Wrath for a little while.
I mean, you know Warrior is OP, right?
Warrior's always OP.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
you want to duel?
No, I mean, like, if it's OP on the game, yeah, I'm not gonna win in the duel. No.
Oh, okay, so you don't want to duel?
No, I'm not gonna duel.
Okay, alright.
I look at the league. I just look at the league.
Yeah, alright. Yeah. Well, actually, Fred's ahead of you.
Alright, anyway, back to the
Let's see if we can spell it somewhere.
Can't do it. There it is. No spitting allowed.
Forum threads expressing concern with Classic's future were ultimately ignored, but to a community that acted against their interests, Blizzard's response would be immediate and clear. It was revealed later that Omar Gonzalez, who was one of the few responsible for taking action and making Classic Recreation a reality, had silently taken leave from Blizzard to join Secret Door under Dreamhaven, contributing to the ever-growing list of people who didn't quit developing games, but rather quit developing games for Blizzard Entertainment. Not long after, Jeff Kaplan, 20-year veteran of Blizzard...
this was so crazy whenever Jeff Kaplan left Blizzard. It just kind of came out of nowhere, man. Like, I was like, wait, what the fuck? Jeff is leaving Blizzard? Like, what? Like, it was so sad.
And director of Overwatch announced his departure. This news would come as a surprise to the community, as the sequel to Overwatch, Overwatch 2, was still in development. Kaplan himself had gained the reputation as a leader and wholly passionate about his craft, so to leave a project before even seeing its release came off as abnormal. And many feared that something was deeply wrong with Blizzard behind closed doors. And prior to this,
there he is.
Veterans since its release in 2004, Alex Afrasiabi, would also quietly drop from the company in June of 2020.
I wonder why.
The manner of which he moved on, however, was also abnormal. As had been customary with the more recognized veterans of the company taking their leave, there was no farewell post, nor even an acknowledgement by Blizzard, though the true reason for his departure would soon become clear.
Uh-oh. Oh.